It all kicks off in a totally snow-covered landscape where we spot some footprints left by someone taking a stroll. Next up, a young dude with brown hair and an orange scarf takes a deep breath of the freezing air under a starry night. He then drops right into a massive ice hall where a mysterious figure is waiting for him on a throne. The warrior lands on top of a giant wolf and mentions that he finally managed to reach this place. With that, he steps firmly onto the creature's back, showing off his imposing presence in the room. The guy stares down the woman on the throne, calling her a witch, and says the 20-year war ends today. The white-haired lady sitting on the throne just gives a mocking smile at his confidence. She then tells him to stop being ridiculous while getting ready to make a move against the intruder, and the sorceress warns him that nobody has managed to make it out of her ice palace in one piece in the last 1,000 years. Her hand then starts glowing with icy energy as she focuses for the attack. She finishes her sentence saying that this rule about not making it out alive applies to him too. At that moment, the lady unleashes an absurd amount of power, creating several ice spears. The woman launches the attack with full force and shouts that she's going to make him regret ever coming there. The young man looks up, shocked by her power, and calls her the heavenly demon. Quickly he moves to dodge the first projectile coming his way. The warrior continues to dodge with great agility between the sharp ice spears. He leaps from side to side, trying his hardest not to get tagged by the attack. The guy is impressed by the speed of the ice sorceress's attacks. He realizes her magical power is so huge that it could pierce through his rebound energy. Looking at the sky, he notes there are too many ice spears to dodge them all. The guy gets grazed by one of the ice spears and grunts in pain from the impact. Thinking about what to do, he decides to take action and propels himself forward with speed. Then he uses a technique called void flight of the heavens to dodge the projectiles in mid-air. Even with his agility, a rain of ice spears keeps falling in his direction. The warrior thinks he needs to get close to her and attack while she prepares a big technique. The sorceress calls him a rat and dares him to dodge the next attack she's going to launch. She then summons the ice spirits, asking for power to annihilate her enemy once and for all. The MC stomps firmly on the ground, getting ready to charge against his powerful opponent. Yelling her name, he charges in with everything he's got amidst the blizzard of magical attacks. The warrior runs toward the witch while she floats in the air preparing her spell. The two stare each other down, ready for the clash, releasing their blue and red auras of power. Next, their powers collide in an explosion of energy that reverberates through the whole hall. The white-haired woman gives a mocking laugh seeing the result of the power clash. The guy appears with several cuts on his face and grumbles, feeling the force of her attack. He regrets missing the chance to attack and gets thrown back amidst the ice spears. The young man falls onto a large chunk of ice, trying to balance himself after the impact of the blow. He is shocked by the absurd speed at which she can cast her spells. With a determined look, he thinks this fight isn't going to be easy to win at all. The witch then floats up and says that before finishing him off, she wants to ask him a question. She asks if it's true that he came from another dimension and climbed the ladder by stepping over his comrades. The sorceress questions him about the meaning of that fight and why he would risk his own life to challenge her. With a determined look, the guy replies that the demonic cult deserves to reign over all creation. Clenching his teeth, he continues his speech, showing all his conviction and rage. He then releases a red aura and says he can't stop now after all the sacrifices. The witch is visibly shocked by the sudden and immense power boost of her adversary. Wrapped in dark energy, the warrior charges forward screaming her name, ready to attack. The woman questions if he really intends to fight to the bitter end and prepares another ice spell. But the guy doesn't hesitate and flies toward her, saying that this time he's going to end it all, and he dives in with his malignant aura, declaring he's going to put an end to this whole mess. The witch shouts that this would only happen in his dreams while concentrating enormous blue energy. She claims she will never lose to someone like him and prepares to cast her spell. And with that, the sorceress creates a gigantic wall of ice to protect herself from the imminent attack. The MC is surprised to see her use a defensive technique and questions the strategy. He says she underestimated him and reveals the name of his technique, the divine art of the heavenly demon. The name of the move is Descent of the Heavenly Demon, and he warns that it's not an attack she can block. His power then collides with her defense, causing an immense explosion of light in the hall. After the smoke clears, we see that the warrior hit her with a fatal blow, piercing through her chest. He then reveals that he unified the Merm and conquered 4 other worlds, this being the last one. He holds her and shows the vital organ he ripped out, saying he is the strongest under the heavens. Defeated, the woman wonders if this is the end and says now she can finally rest. But the witch refuses to go down and warns him that it's still too early for him to declare victory. And then an ice sword that pierces through both of them begins to glow with an intense blue light. The MC is completely shocked by his opponent's desperate attitude. He thinks she hasn't given up even with a hole in her chest and that he needs to flee fast. The sorceress holds him and says it's too late to escape and that now they are going to finish this. The warrior panics and screams with all his might, realizing there is no way out. And so, with that, the ice sword goes through both of them with more force as they fall together to the ground. The guy coughs up blood and understands that she used a mutual destruction move to take him with her. He thinks that if he goes first, he loses, and that at the very least he needs to see her check out before him. With a last breath, the white-haired woman smiles and says it was she who won in the end. That was how the long journey of conquest of the heavenly demon finally reached its end. In a flashback, he remembers his followers and thinks that an absolute being cannot lose his arts. He then reflects that martial arts were the most important thing in his entire life. Suddenly, what wakes him up is the rhythmic sound of a heart beating, and he sees himself curled up. The guy finds himself in a warm and comfortable place and wonders if he is in a mother's womb. His senses start coming back little one by one, a process he finds interesting. Right after, he realizes he is not alone and sees another baby, wondering if they are twins. Looking at the other fetus, he questions this means that now he will have a sibling. The MC remembers that in his past life he had no siblings and was always lonely. We then see a scene of his poor and difficult childhood, which explains a lot about his personality. He remembers that he lived as an orphan beggar until being dragged as a slave to the demonic cult. After fighting so much and leaving a trail of destruction, he thinks that now someone like him is going to have a family. The guy appears next to his new sister and seems to reflect on this new chance at life. He promises to become an even stronger heavenly demon and that now a new life begins. Finally, MC is born into his new baby body and gives his first cry in the world. The newborn then opens his eyes, confused by the situation he finds himself in now. In the doctor's arms, he feels a familiar energy coming from somewhere very close to him. The energy comes from the other baby who has also just been born and is being held next to him. And so, he looks at the other baby and starts to wonder if by chance that would be who he is thinking of. To his surprise, he realizes that the ice witch has reincarnated as his twin sister. Both stare at each other with malicious smiles and think that this is a golden opportunity. The doctors think it's cute that the babies are smiling, unaware of the mortal rivalry between the two. The MC remembers that in his past life he surpassed several legendary masters, starting with the Sword Master. He also defeated the greatest assassin known as Cheongaksal, showing his superiority in combat. Not even the genius of poisonous arts Tang Mansion was able to resist his overwhelming power. And finally, the master of external martial arts Sangguang also succumbed to his strength. The guy reflects that he surpassed all these great warriors but now faces his greatest trial. He has been reborn as a defenseless baby wearing a little bear outfit and with a pacifier in his mouth. Lying in his crib, he laments thinking that this is the most difficult situation he has ever faced. Suddenly the bedroom door opens and he prepares for what he considers a huge threat. And his new mother enters the room and affectionately asks if her little angel slept well, but he panics. He begs in his mind for her not do what he is thinking, but he knows it is useless. The woman comments that Aram is very quiet and brave while he gets irritated for not being able to control himself. He finds it humiliating not to have control even of his own body, and the mother says she is going to change his sister's diaper. The MC just observes the whole situation with an expression of total disapproval on his face. He then turns to his sister and remembers that she is the reincarnation of the Ice Witch. The little girl looks like an angel, but he knows very well how dangerous and cunning she can be. Concentrating, he checks his dantian and realizes he is already ready to accumulate internal energy. He then plans to open his meridians using his secret mental technique as soon as the sun rises. But every time he tries to meditate, his sister starts crying loudly to disturb him. His parents come in to calm the girl down and end up picking him up too, ruining his plans. He notices the victorious smile on her face and understands that she is doing this on purpose. He thinks she is using cheap tricks to interrupt his training and gets furious. In his father's arms, he stares at his sister and promises in thought that she will pay for this. With a determined look, he swears to himself that he will never give up on his goal. To defeat her, he decides he needs to train not only his internal energy but also his body. He cannot rest for a single moment and prepares to start his intense physical training. And so, the little boy believes that the one who is prepared to fight first will be the victor. 4 years pass and the children's mother says goodbye to a visitor, asking them to play. The MC Urem is left alone with his sister and prepares for the confrontation he has waited so long for. He approaches her and asks how long she is going to pretend she knows nothing. The little girl Yuri looks at him with an expression of disinterest, pretending not to understand what he is talking about. Uram says that until now parental supervision hadn't given them an opportunity to settle their scores, and she calls him immature and asks how long he is going to keep talking about fighting. The girl then says there are 3 things he needs to remember, and he gets curious, and the two stare at each other seriously and she says that first of all, it was she who won in the past life. Uram gets irritated with the provocation and decides that to win he needs to attack first and gain an advantage. He then lunges at her with a punch but she uses a stuffed rabbit to defend herself. The girl throws the toy at him with force, and he is caught by surprise by the unexpected attack. The boy dodges the rabbit with agility and prepares to counterattack his adversary. He manages to get past the toy and continues advancing toward her with his fist just raised. The girl then says the second thing while a colorful aura begins to emanate from her body. She explains that unlike him she uses magic and has no restrictions on using her power. The girl then uses her magic to animate all the stuffed animals in the room, which advance against him. The boy is shocked to see the army of toys coming in his direction ready to attack him. The little animals knock him to the ground and immobilize him, leaving him no chance to fight back. Yuri then says the third and final thing with a serious and determined look on her face. She says he must ensure their parents suffer no harm and that there will be no life or death duels. And so, the girl reminds him that in this life they are family and should not do anything that might hurt their parents. Yuri questions her, saying they were mortal enemies in the past life and asking if she is okay with that. The girl stares at him with a thoughtful look and seems to reflect on her brother's words. And she then says that the past life doesn't matter anymore and corrects him, telling him to call her big sister. The guy gets irritated with her attitude but seems to accept the situation for now. Later that night, the family's house is silent with everyone sleeping peacefully. The two siblings are in their cribs in the same room, but Aram is awake and thoughtful, and he wonders why she is acting so differently from the Ice Witch he knew. The MC remembers the powerful and ruthless woman who wouldn't leave him alone no matter what. He then questions if it's because he is too weak, or if she really sees him as family. Meanwhile, Yuri is also awake in her crib with a distant and thoughtful look. She remembers her past life where she lived in a world of fire and constant destruction. In her previous life, she only knew violence and the struggle for survival without truce. She remembers having to fight and take lives to stay alive even if it hurt her. She then remembers the old memories that torment her while she tries to rest in her bed. Then she wakes up startled but calms down, remembering that this life is different from the one she lived before. The girl sees this new life as a gift from the gods, and we see a happy memory with her new family. With a determined look, she promises herself she won't lose this new chance to be happy again. Aram begins his physical training doing push-ups with just 2 fingers to strengthen his body. He balances on the bed and reflects that the witch is right because he needs physical strength to use his power. With a sweaty face, he thinks that she uses magic and that's why she doesn't have the same restrictions as him. The boy ends up losing his balance and falls on the bed, frustrated with the difficulty of the training. Lying down, he looks at the ceiling with determination and promises himself he will catch up to her soon. And so he then decides that from that moment on he will start the training of the infernal arts. And so his divine art of the heavenly demon technique requires at least 3 gapja of internal energy to be used. 1 gapja equals 60 years of energy, and in the past life, this placed him among the top 100 masters. Sitting on his bed, meditates to create a core and accumulate energy in his new body. Now more adapted, he manages to concentrate and calmly identify the flow of his blood. Right after, he enters a state of ecstasy and feels that something special is happening with his body. Normally the Myangmun point at the base of the spine should open and connect to his dantian, but for some reason, the Bako point on top of his head opened first, and he wonders why. The pure body of the baby accepted the change, and now he possesses 2 energy cores, one in the head and another in the abdomen. With his 2 cores activated, a powerful red and black aura begins to emanate from his body. Time passes and we see a school bus in front of the family's house some years later, and so the mother says goodbye to Yuri at the door and asks her to listen to the teacher and have fun at school. She then calls for Uram, saying the teacher is waiting for him so he shouldn't be late. The boy's backpack then falls to the ground with a thud, showing he has no intention of going. He tells his mother he has nothing left to learn in that place, leaving her confused. The mother laughs awkwardly and apologizes to the teacher, saying her son is a little unusual. The teacher praises Uram for being expressive and the mother encourages him to make friends at school. With a threatening look, Yuri reminds him she had already warned him to act like a normal kid. The boy gets visibly tense with the pressure from his sister and starts sweating bullets. Next, the school bus with a cat design departs, taking the kids to the city. And so looking at his reflection in the window, Uram thinks it's frustrating, but he needs to endure it for now. As soon as he enters the bus, a little girl greets him, but he continues with his serious face. The girl asks his age and if he wants to be her friend, but he doesn't seem interested at all. Uram replies coldly that he is 966 years old and doesn't like kids. The little girl starts crying loudly, and the teacher comes over to see what happened, and during the day he keeps his consciousness to a minimum to practice cultivating his internal energy. At night he focuses totally on his external martial arts training to get stronger. The guy pushes his body to the limit, alternating between his 2 energy cores to recover. In a flashback, we see the birth of a new baby in the family who seems healthy and happy. Little Yuri gets super excited and with sparkling eyes seeing the new member of the family. Their parents present the new little sister and the mother asks if she isn't a cutie. Uram analyzes the baby and realizes he feels no energy coming from her, so she is not reincarnated. And so he then reflects that there is no guarantee that he and his sister are the only reincarnators in the world. With a serious look, he concludes that other reincarnators are probably thinking the same thing. The scene changes to a clinic and someone wonders why they were called to such an isolated place. Uram tells Yuri accepts a duel at any time but that she needs to understand something first. The girl stares at him with an expression of boredom without showing much patience for the conversation, and he then hands something to her and the girl asks what that object in his hand is. Upon opening her hand she sees a shiny ring and is surprised by the unexpected gift from her brother. The guy asks what the trick behind that ring is and he tosses the object up, and so he then questions her if she is sure that Yuna isn't a reincarnator like the two of them. The ring emits an intense blue light and transforms into a dimensional portal, leaving Yuri shocked. Yuri explains that the ring is a portal between dimensions and allows teleportation at any moment. She confirms that Yuna is a normal child and asks him to protect her in case anything happens. Aram questions why she is talking as if something bad is about to happen. The girl says they must behave like big siblings and take care of the youngest. She then turns around and walks away, telling him to behave and not cause problems for the family. The MC clenches his fist with a determined look, ready to follow his own path, and so he thinks that no matter what happens or if there are other reincarnators out there, the guy is focused on recovering the power of his past life to face any challenge. Time passes and we see the two siblings already as teenagers on a special graduation day. He believes nothing will be a problem as long as he continues his intense secret training. Sitting at his desk he concentrates his energy and prepares for a major breakthrough. The boy finally manages to gather the internal energy needed for his special technique. With his eyes closed he reaches the level of 3 gapj of energy and is now 17 years old. Yuram reflects that he is still far from his past power and that now he needs more practical training. Just then he sees a bully stepping on a classmate named Donkyu and provoking him for not being happy to see them, and the aggressor orders the boy to buy bread for them because he is starving and hasn't eaten anything for breakfast. The young man lying on the floor says with fear that he has no money at that moment to obey the order. With that, the bully grabs a broom from the floor, getting ready to use force against the defenseless classmate. He then threatens the guy, saying that in that case, he will have to get beaten until he finds the money. But before he can attack, Orem grabs the broom firmly and orders him to stop immediately. The aggressor turns around furious and asks who the hell he is to interfere in his business. The other gang members also look surprised by the MC's sudden intervention in the fight. The boy on the floor is shocked while Yuram calmly replies that he is just a classmate of theirs. The MC then stands up holding the broom with a serious and imposing expression on his face. The aggressor gets irritated with the intrusion and wonders what is wrong with that guy. With a serious look, the MC thinks that the situation there is no different from his past life. The bully yells for Uram to let him go, thinking he owns the place, and his friends just watch. Uram reflects on how people are mistreated just for being weaker than others, and also for being alone with no one to defend them like he was in his childhood. He remembers what it was like to be despised and avoided by everyone around him back then. The MC concludes that the situation is exactly the same in the past as in the present. The other bullies comment that Uram is the class rep's younger brother and that he never speaks. Irritated with the resistance, the aggressor tries to break free from the MC's firm grip with force. The bully then shouts for Uram to let go and tries to land a punch straight to his face. But the MC blocks the blow with ease, surprising the aggressor with his strength, and the scene changes rapidly, showing the agility of the movement that just happened between the two. With that, Uram stomps hard on the bully's foot to destabilize him and gain the advantage in the fight. Next, he throws him easily to the classroom floor, leaving the aggressor completely shocked. The MC then picks up the broom that the bully had dropped at the moment of the attack, and the other bullies just laugh at the situation and start recording everything with their phones to post online. The girl films the scene with a smile on her face, finding the whole situation very amusing to watch. Ignoring the others' mockery, Uram simply turns around and starts walking away from the mess. But to their surprise, the guy walks in their direction, leaving them scared with his attitude. He then approaches the boy lying on the floor, extends a hand and asks if he is okay. With a gentle smile, Uram offers help to the fallen boy, telling him to get up. He then comments that no matter where you go, there will always be trash people like those bullies. The redhead girl gets offended by the comment and asks if he is talking about them. The gang leader approaches Uram with an irritated expression and asks if he is done talking. The MC stares at him with a mocking smile and asks if he is deaf and needs him to repeat it. And so then he reinforced the insult, calling them all garbage while the bully gets up from the floor. The aggressor charges at Uram with full speed, ready to attack with rage. He screams for the MC to die and tries to land a straight punch to his face with all his might. But Uram dodges easily and asks if that's all he has to show in a fight. With a quick and precise movement, the guy lands a blow that unbalances him and throws him to the ground. Next, he kicks him hard, sending him flying far away with a single powerful blow. The kick hits the bully square on, who screams in pain from the devastating impact. The other bullies are completely shocked by Uram's strength and skill in the fight. The MC then approaches the fallen aggressor and steps on his chest, showing his dominance. And so with a look of disdain, he wonders if that can be considered a warm-up for him. The gang leader gets annoyed and calls him a punk, but Yuri arrives in the room and interrupts the chaos. And she asks what they think they are doing and if they are seriously fighting in the classroom. The bully tries to defend himself and says her brother is beating up his friend for no reason. Uram just points to his own cheek with a bored look, not caring about the accusations. The redhead girl then shows her phone and says she filmed everything and will show the teacher. With a twinkle in her eyes, Yuri uses her powers to control the situation without anyone noticing. The redhead girl's phone suddenly cracks and she is shocked, not understanding what happened. Yuri then tells everyone to go back to their seats because class is about to start. Uram looks at his sister with a serious expression but decides not to question her actions at that moment. And so, the leader of the bullies threatens Uram, telling him to just wait for what is coming soon. The boy who was saved by Uram hugs him from behind and says they should try to get along. The scene then changes to outside the school with a blue sky and peaceful weather. Yuri meets Uram outside and questions him for being quiet and anxious to show his strength. And so Uram explains he just wanted to scare them a little and couldn't stand by watching them torment a classmate. And so, the girl says this world is different from what they were used to and that he should adapt. The guy disagrees and says this world is no different from what they knew in the past. He claims that adapting means ignoring this kind of behavior, so he won't do that. With a determined expression, he says if necessary he himself will change the world they live in. Meanwhile, the boy assaulted by the bullies trembles with fear and anger on the classroom floor. The bullies gather in an alley to discuss what happened to them in the classroom. The boy who was defeated by Uram smokes a cigarette and swears he won't let it slide. And so his friends question him about what he is going to do since Uram seems to be very good at fighting. The group leader then says to call more people to help them get revenge on the MC. He argues that they saw how the guy fights and can't simply leave things like that. The bully then approaches the assaulted boy and threatens him to get information about Uram. The aggressor grabs him by the hair and forces him to listen to his orders with a threatening expression. He then orders him to bring Uram to a vacant lot after school and threatens him if he doesn't obey. Back in the classroom, Uram is sitting at his desk with a thoughtful expression on his face. The boy he saved approaches timidly and calls him by name to talk to him. The guy thanks Uram for helping him earlier and the MC says he did what was right. And so, the boy then offers to buy him something to eat as a way of thanking him for the help. Uram notices the marks of injuries on the classmate's neck and remembers his own childhood. The guy continues insisting on thanking him and invites him to eat something after school if he has time. Uram accepts the invitation and says he was in the mood for tteokbokki, leaving the classmate relieved. The MC then says the bullies haven't learned their lesson and asks where they are going. The boy gets visibly nervous and scared of the situation he got into with the aggressors. The scene changes to a dark alley where we see the bullies and a few more goons waiting for them. One of the aggressors sees Uram arriving and warns the others that the victim finally showed up for the confrontation. The leader of the new goons approaches Uram and provokes him, asking if he thinks he's a fighter. Uram just smiles and asks if that is the famous place that sells tteokbokki he was looking for. The bullies get confused and call him crazy, thinking the classmate tricked him to bring him there. But the MC reveals he already knew about the trap and calls them all despicable trash. One of the goons gets irritated with Uram's attitude and calls him a psychopath, asking if he wants to die. Uram tells them to stop talking and get to the fighting because he is short on time. The scene ends with a street lamp illuminating. The fight starts in the alley lit by a street lamp with Uram surrounded by several bullies. One of the goons charges at him with a punch, screaming for him to check out with rage in his eyes. The MC dodges the attack with ease and lands a precise blow on the aggressor, knocking him down. The other bullies are shocked by Uram's speed and strength and call him a punk. Another goon tries to attack him from behind, but the guy ducks, dodging the punch with agility. With a determined look, he prepares to counterattack the opponent who tried to catch him by surprise. Uram lands a powerful punch on the bully's chin, sending him flying back from the impact of the blow. And the other bullies are even more surprised by his strength and wonder how he manages to fight like that. With a confident smile, the MC invites them to fight, showing he isn't afraid of them. Irritated, the goons charge at Uram all at the same time to try to take him down. So, the guy lands a kick to the head of one of the aggressors, who falls to the ground immediately. Next, he lands a high kick on another bully who is also knocked out instantly. Uram continues to fight, masterfully dodging attacks and counterattacking with precision. And so he lands another powerful kick on another opponent who can't defend against the blow. The leader of the school bullies charges at Uram with a punch, screaming and full of rage. The MC blocks the punch with his hand without even moving from where he stood. With a quick movement, he squeezes the aggressor's hand hard, breaking his fingers with ease. Then Uram attacks him with an open palm strike, throwing him far away with great force. All the bullies are lying on the ground, defeated by the MC's strength and skill. With a smile on his face, Uram regrets getting a little carried away in the fight, but has no regrets. The bullies are completely in shock with the MC's display of strength in the fight. With a confident smile, Uram dares them to keep attacking if they still have the guts. The aggressors get scared and retreat, afraid of the guy's strength and attitude in the fight. Uram stares at them with contempt and says that's why he can't stand trash people like them. He criticizes them for ganging up to attack the weak but running away when someone stronger shows up. The MC calls them children who barely got out of diapers and already want to act like tough guys. one of the goons picks up a metal pipe from the ground and says he will show what happens to people like Yuram. And so, the bully then charges at the guy with the pipe ready to attack him with all his strength, but Aram stares at him with a serious expression and wonders what he should do with that guy. And the scene shows the quick movement of the goon trying to hit the MC with the metal pipe. The aggressor delivers the blow with all his might, aiming at Aram's head to finish him. The MC then grabs the pipe with his hand and reminds him he is old enough to know that could be fatal. With a single blow, Aram lands a punch on the bully's face, sending him flying back from the impact. The goon falls to the ground completely knocked out by the MC's powerful punch in the fight. Suddenly one of the fallen bullies wets himself out of fear of the situation and Aram's strength. The guy approaches the fallen aggressors and says they all need a good lesson. The other bullies who are still standing get terrified by the MC's attitude, and the scene changes to the school the next day with students talking about a rumor that spread. And so a student asks if the other heard the rumor that the school bullies were defeated by someone, and the students comment that the craziest part of the rumor is that 10 of them were defeated by a single person. Another student confirms the rumor, saying a friend saw a single guy take down the entire group. A girl suggests it could have been Yuram, but her friend doubts it since he is always quiet and keeps to himself. Yuri hears the conversation with a thoughtful expression and seems not to believe her classmate's theory. The scene changes to the school sports field where Ram is sitting with the boy he saved, and so, the guy says now they don't need to worry anymore and that he can count on him if he gets bothered. He then asks if the rumor that Urim defeated all the bullies alone is true. The MC changes the subject and says he just explained things clearly to them without using force. With a smile, he asks his friend not to spread stupid rumors about what happened in the fight. The boy then apologizes for dragging him into that mess with the bullies. Uram comforts him, saying he isn't pathetic and that the real trash are the ones who bully. The guy warns that those bullies are dangerous and have the support of real gangsters, and so, he worries that because of him Urim might have gotten into big trouble with dangerous people. The MC calms him down and tells him to relax because people like them are nothing to him. The boy thanks Uram and says he has always been alone and no one ever defended him before. He reveals that Uram was the first person to defend him when he was being bullied at school. With a smile, Uram says he was also the first friend he made in this new life he had. The guy gets emotional with Uram's declaration and seems happy to have made a new friend. He then asks Uram's name and the MC finally introduces himself to his new friend. The scene changes to a restaurant where we see the two eating taekbaki together as friends. They are sitting at a table with other people enjoying the meal and the new friendship, and so, the mother scolds her younger daughter Yuna for not wanting to eat the carrots on her plate. The little girl complains that carrots have no taste and the mother encourages her to eat to grow strong. The father arrives and asks Yuri and Urim how school was that day with a smile on his face. The younger sister praises Yuri, saying she is #1 and even won an award in America. The father then turns to Urim and asks if school is going well for him too. The guy replies with pride that he restored justice to the world and made a new friend at school. He says he accomplished something much bigger than passing a test, and Yuri stares at him with disdain. After the meal, Yuri says she is going to the study room and Urim says he is going to exercise. The father washes the dishes and expresses his concern about Uram's future to his wife. And he says he doesn't mind if his son doesn't study, but that he doesn't seem to think about his future. The wife calms him down and says not to rush him because everyone grows at their own pace. Yuri is studying in her room and Ram is running outside exercising as always. While running, a man calls him and asks him to come closer for a serious talk. The man and his group recognize Urim and confirm he is the boy they are looking for. The guy asks what they want and the man questions if he is one of the punks who protects children. With a confident smile, the man says this saves their time and that he wants to settle things. He suggests they move to a more private place and dismisses his henchmen to be alone. Uram accepts the invitation with a smile and says the proposal is music to his ears. The scene changes to a green and sunny mountain showing an isolated and quiet place. The three are in a clearing and the man says this is an empty place with no problems for them. Uram asks if they are sure and warns them that if he fights seriously they won't stand a chance. The pink-haired man gets straight to the point and asks Urim if he is a reincarnator. The MC is completely shocked by the question and cannot hide his surprise. The man laughs and says Ram's reaction says it all, and that he really is a reincarnator. Suddenly a powerful aura of energy explodes on the spot, surprising the MC with its strength. The other man is thrown far away by the force of the energy released by the group leader. Uram is impressed by the opponent's power and prepares to see what he can really do. With a confident smile, the pink-haired man challenges him to a fight to test his skills. The scene changes to birds flying in the sky, showing the intensity and speed of the battle beginning. The two trade blows at high speed and Urim realizes there are other reincarnators besides him, and he wonders if there are others besides him and the Ice Witch and goes for the attack with a punch. The MC hits the opponent's face with force but he seems unfazed by the blow. With a powerful kick, Urim hits him again but he continues resisting the attacks with ease. The guy realizes the opponent is channeling Ki in his attacks and that he is no ordinary adversary. The pink-haired man provokes him, asking where his bold attitude from before went. The two continue trading blows at high speed, with Yuri defending against the enemy's attacks. The MC admits to himself that the opponent isn't that impressive but is still strong. The other man gets disappointed and says Yuri is more boring than he expected in battle. He then decides there is no reason to prolong the fight and prepares for a final attack. Yuri also prepares to end the fight and concentrates his energy for the decisive blow. Yuri asks what exactly they are, since they seem to use martial arts in their fights. The pink-haired man dares him to dodge his next attack to discover the truth. He then launches a powerful punch of blue energy toward Yuri, who prepares to defend himself. The attack creates a large explosion of light and energy that destroys part of the surrounding vegetation. The other man who had fallen gets up and looks impressed by his leader's power. The pink-haired man is wrapped in an aura of power and prepares to continue the fight. He apologizes for getting carried away and asks if Yuri is okay after the powerful attack. The look of surprise, he realizes that the MC managed to dodge his blow. Yuri then asks again what they are, and the man is shocked that he escaped. The aggressor realizes Yuri is no rookie and gets excited about the prospect of a good fight. With a confident smile, he says it wouldn't be fun if the fight ended so easily, and so Yuri insists on the question, wanting to know what they are, but the man continues to ignore him. With that, the guy advances at high speed to attack the MC with another blow. The pink-haired man dares him to defeat him if he really wants to know the truth about them. The two trade punches at high speed, with their auras of power clashing in the air, and the MC manages to stop the opponent's punch and prepares to counterattack with his energy. A red and black aura starts emanating from Yuri's hand, surprising the pink-haired man. The other man prepares to intervene, but Yuri stops him, holding his arm tightly. The pink-haired man is confused by the MC's attitude and asks what he is doing. The other one reminds him of the mission and says the master's orders always come first. The man apologizes for the disrespect and says they needed to test Yuri before anything else. With a confident smile, he prepares to reveal the truth about who they are and what they do. He then introduces himself as a member of the Hunter Hall, an organization of reincarnators like Yuri. The MC is surprised by the revelation and asks how they found out he was a reincarnator. The man explains that Yuri's fighting skills are too advanced for an ordinary student. He says if Yuri hadn't reacted to the word reincarnator, he simply would have walked away. And so with a smile, he reveals that the reason for hunting reincarnators is the competition between them. The man explains there are many reincarnators in the world and they are looking for allies. Yuri realizes there are more reincarnators than he imagined and that they might have been reborn too. He asks how many reincarnators exist, but the man says he cannot give more information. The guy questions why he would join an organization like theirs for no reason, and so Yuri then states that he doesn't work for anyone weaker than him in a fight. The two men start laughing at the MC's audacious declaration with mockery. The leader of the duo bursts out laughing, finding Yuri's attitude extremely arrogant and amusing, and so he says there are always idiots who don't know their place and that Yuri is one of them. With that, he charges at the MC, saying he needs a little education. A powerful red aura emanates from his body, showing he is serious about the fight. The scene changes to the sky with birds flying, showing the calm before the final battle. Night falls and the scene changes to the front of Yuri and Yuri's house, with the moon shining in the sky. With that, we see her returning home reading a book. Yuri complains about having to study useless things at school every day nonstop. She thinks memorizing things that don't help at all in life is a waste of time. Yuri appears with a smile and asks what the point of all that is to her. He says this is how you survive in this world, and Yuri sighs, tired of the conversation. And so the guy then reveals to her that there are other reincarnators besides the two of them in the world. The girl doesn't seem to care about the news and asks what that changes for them now. She says even if there are others, they should just ignore them and keep living their lives. Yuri gets irritated with Yuri and yells at him not to call her a witch anymore because she is just a student. The mysterious man watching her from afar is confused by the girl's sudden reaction. She says she is no longer the ice witch he knew and that now she is just an ordinary girl. And the young lady warns that she won't let anyone interfere with the life she has now, not even him. And the scene changes to the school the next day with sunny and peaceful weather in the courtyard. In the classroom, Yuri is sitting at his desk with a thoughtful expression on his face, and he watches Yuri talking to her friends and seems to reflect on what she said the night before. The MC concludes she is satisfied with her current life and doesn't want any more trouble, and his new friend calls him by name and snaps him out of his thoughts, asking what's up. The boy offers an earphone to Yuri and invites him to listen to music together. He says it's one of his favorite bands and thinks the MC will like it too. Yuri accepts the invite and puts on the earphone to try his friend's music. The guy is surprised by the music and seems to have liked his new companion's recommendation. Yuri has a flashback of his past life, remembering everything he left behind in his world. He sees himself at the top of a mountain with his followers ready to conquer the world. The guy shouts to his followers that today they will claim everything under the sky. He declares himself the sky itself, the highest of all, but his followers don't seem to take it seriously. Back in the present, Yuri asks his friend who composed the song they are listening to. The lyrics talk about dreams achieved together and memories that will never be forgotten. The friend shows the music video on his phone where a blonde singer performs with energy. He says the music is good and the group is called Fairy, leaving Yuri curious about them. The MC looks at the singer and feels a strange familiarity with her face and presence. And so the friend explains they're the biggest girl group right now and the one in the center is the most popular. He also reveals that the girl named Yuri wrote and composed the song they are listening to. And the friend confirms that Yuri is a Chinese member of the group and that she is very popular there too. Aram then deduces she must be a disciple of the demonic cult who also reincarnated. He wonders if she became an artist just to survive in this new world they live in. The guy feels a sadness behind her smile and worries about what she might have gone through. With a determined look, he asks his friend where he can meet this girl in person. The friend says he would have to go to a concert or a fan event to manage to see her. Aram then decides they are going immediately to find the girl without wasting any more time. The friend is shocked by the sudden decision and reminds him they are still in class hours, and the scene changes to a tall building named Hunter Hall showing the organization's headquarters. Inside Hunter Hall we see the two men who fought being reprimanded by a superior. The scene shows clouds in the sky indicating a passage of time and a new phase in the story. A bearded redhead man calls them fools for failing to defeat a student. The two men apologize for the failure and admit Aram was much stronger than they expected. The redhead gets annoyed with the excuse and says they should try again if they wanted to live, but someone from above interrupts the discussion saying that was enough and for them to stop. The redhead turns around and sees a blonde boy who seems to be the leader of that branch of the organization, the boy says age doesn't matter for reincarnators and that might have been powerful in the past. The two men recognize the boy as the boss of Branch B and confirm Uram's strength. The boss says they will have to find him personally to know what kind of person he is. With a gleam in his eyes, he uses his powers to levitate the two men in the air with ease. He reprimands them for being useless and for not changing at all since joining him. The boss calls them unskilled trash and throws them to the ground with contempt for the failure. With a determined look, he decides he will personally find Uram to recruit him into the organization. He orders his subordinates to investigate Uram's life in search of any weakness they can use. The redhead man agrees with the boss's orders and prepares to carry out the mission given to him. The scene changes to a busy street at night with cars and people passing on the sidewalk. A taxi stops on the street and we see Yuri getting out walking home after a day of studying. She remembers the conversation with Uram about the existence of other reincarnators in the world. The scene changes to a campsite at night with a campfire and tents showing a fantasy setting. In a flashback we see a little girl walking through a campsite at night carefully. The white-haired girl looks scared and hugs something tight looking around. A man watches her from afar with a smile on his face while she moves away from the camp. The little girl runs toward a lit tent in the middle of the dark and lonely field, and she calls for her sister and finds her inside the tent getting ready for something. The sister asks if she brought what they agreed on and the girl confirms yes. The little girl asks where they are going and the sister says she is going to show something incredible, and the scene changes to a desolate and cold place with a small hut in the middle of nowhere. A rat appears and looks scared of something approaching it in the darkness, and the scene goes completely dark, creating an atmosphere of suspense and mystery about what is to come. A giant centipede appears and the rat flees desperately to avoid being caught by the insect. The rat keeps running for its life but something prevents it from escaping the imminent danger. A skeletal hand grabs it tightly and a hooded figure appears in the darkness, and the figure tells the rat to be quiet and that it will all be over quickly for it. Suddenly a fireball appears and burns the figure's hand, which drops the rat in fear. A voice calls for Grandpa and the hooded figure turns to see who is there. He sees the two girls approaching and is surprised by their presence in that place. The older sister calls for Lena and asks if he waited a long time for them. The grandfather is shocked and slack-jawed seeing the two girls there before him. The sister says he must be hungry and that the adults haven't been sharing food lately. The older sister asks the grandfather why he is living alone and without food, and she then introduces the little girl as Suya, the girl she had spoken about before. The grandfather laughs and says Suya is a very pretty name for the little white-haired girl. He then holds a fireball in his hand and says he is going to tell them the reason for living alone. And so young Yuri remembers this moment and wonders if her life would have been different without magic. She reflects on her past and questions the choices she made in her previous life. Back in the present, Yuri arrives home and finds the boss of Branch B of the Hunter Hall waiting for her, and so, she questions him about what he is doing in front of someone else's house in the middle of the night. The boy smiles and says he heard it was a boy living there, not a girl like her. So Yuri notices a suspicious aura coming from the boy and wonders if he is someone's younger brother. A blue aura starts emanating from her hands as she prepares for a possible confrontation. The young lady creates a magic circle and gets ready to attack the intruder on her property. She introduces herself as the big sister and unleashes a wave of power that surprises him. A white cat appears and seems to watch the scene with curiosity and interest in what is happening. The cat sits on a wall and continues to watch the power struggle between the two reincarnators. It then meows and a blue portal opens on the ground enveloping the area with magical energy. The portal's energy expands and creates a protective barrier around the two combatants. The boy is impressed and says it shouldn't be easy to create a barrier of that scale. He complains about his subordinates saying Yuri only had civilians around him. With eyes glowing with power, Yuri questions him about who he is and what he is doing there. The boy tries to calm Yuri down and invites her to join the organization of reincarnators, and the young lady says she is the one asking the questions and quizzes him on who they are and why they chase her. He says her brother didn't tell her about them and suggests a chat to clear things up. Yuri interrupts him and demands answers, threatening him if he doesn't cooperate with her questions. The boy sighs and complains that reincarnators are always very rude and impatient with him. A golden aura begins to emanate from his feet as he prepares to show his power. He says they are only willing to talk after feeling the class difference between them. Yuri perceives the threat and prepares a sphere of blue energy in her hand to defend herself. The boy dares her to maintain her arrogance and prepares to attack her with all his power. The two stare each other down with their power auras ready for the confrontation about to start. The scene goes back to Yuri's flashback with her grandfather, and her sister in a cold and desolate place. The little girl's hands glow with blue energy as she tries to use her ice powers. She manages to create a small ice crystal and is happy to have succeeded in her magic. The grandfather praises the two granddaughters' exceptional talent for magic, and the sister shows her fire power. He reveals that Lena has a fire spirit and that Suya has an ice spirit in their bodies. The grandfather is impressed by the ease with which they manage to communicate with the spirits. The little girl asks if now they can become mages, and the sister says yes if they work together. She says if they become imperial mages they will never go hungry again, and the girl gets excited. Young Suya asks if her parents will look for her if she becomes a famous and powerful mage, and Yuri's sister questions her if she still misses those people, and she replies yes because they are her family. With a look of contempt, Yuri's sister says that family is nothing to her. The blonde boy summons the servants of light and prepares a powerful golden energy attack. He then launches a shining arrow toward Yuri with all his strength and power, but the girl creates an ice barrier that blocks the attack with ease and no effort. The scene shows the ice crystals forming to protect the young lady from the light attack. With a confident look, Yuri asks if that's all he has to show in the fight. The boy says that is just the beginning and prepares another golden energy attack, and so he throws a blade of light toward Yuri, who prepares to defend herself again. The young lady summons the ice spirits and asks them to lend her their power for battle. She creates a magical ice circle that blocks the blade of light perfectly and masterfully. The boy is shocked to see his technique blocked so easily by the ice mage. Yuri teases him and asks if that weak attack is the class difference he talked about. Irritated, the boy tells her she can have what she wants and prepares to use all his power. He praises Yuri's skill but says he will have to end her right there to win, and so a huge creature of light forms behind him ready to attack the young lady with everything. With red eyes, he says he will guide her to the end and unleashes the creature of light. Yuri stands firm in her position with a serious and determined expression on her face. With glowing eyes, she dares him to try if he is capable of defeating her in the fight. The creature of light charges toward Yuri with impressive and frightening speed. The scene shows the imminent collision between the power of light and the power of ice of the two reincarnators. The blonde boy says petty tricks won't work anymore and prepares for the final attack. He then releases the creature of light toward Yuri, saying he will end it all now. The powerful attack breaks Yuri's defenses, easily leaving her vulnerable. With a confident smile, the young lady releases her fury and prepares to show her true power. As she raises her hand and a huge blue magic circle forms in the sky, swallowing everything around. Suddenly it starts snowing and a little girl on the street is surprised by the unexpected phenomenon. Her mother says winter is still far off, but the girl insists she saw snow falling from the sky. The mother looks up and is also surprised to see snowflakes falling gently. The snow begins to fall over the entire city, creating an out-of-season winter landscape. Yuri breathes the cold air and prepares to use all her power against the arrogant opponent. The creature of light is instantly frozen by the young ice mage's magic. The giant hand of light gets stuck in a solid block of ice, motionless in the air. The entire creature is frozen and shattered into pieces by the overwhelming force of Yuri's power, and the young lady floats in the air with her feet wrapped in ice, showing her mastery over the element. The blonde boy is shocked to see his creature of light completely frozen and destroyed. Yuri floats in the air with a cold and determined expression on her face, ready for the next step. She is taken by surprise when an ice hand grabs her by the foot tightly and pulls her down. The blonde boy who is frozen breaks free and questions her about who she is and how she can have so much power. The young ice mage creates an ice blade in her hand and prepares for the final confrontation. The boy is shocked by her power and wonders how she manages to have so much strength. The blonde boy is shocked by Yuri's power and can't believe what he is seeing. He screams in pain, feeling his arm being frozen by the young ice mage's magic, and frozen in the ice he grumbles in pain while Yuri says she was the one who asked the question first. With eyes glowing with power, she demands he tell everything he knows about the reincarnators. The scene shows the starry sky and the word death appears, indicating the fate of the reincarnators. A meteor crosses crosses the sky, symbolizing the journey of souls after the end of their past lives. The word reincarnation appears and another bigger and brighter meteor crosses outer space. Several meteors appear in the sky, showing that many souls were reborn in a new world. All these meteors head toward planet Earth, where the reincarnators began their new lives. The rulers of past lives met their end and were reborn in a new world with new rules, and so, they were placed in a new environment within a new social and cultural order different from the one they knew. Hiding their identities, they continued to live among common people trying to adapt, but the power of their past lives began to manifest and some humans noticed their existence. The rulers of the world officially denied their existence but secretly began to persecute them. The government set up special teams to hunt and capture the reincarnators who were exposed. With this, the reincarnators came into conflict with the authorities and the situation became chaotic. Humans had weak bodies and couldn't use magic or martial arts like the reincarnators, but they were organized and systematic in their combat tactics and persecution of reincarnators. The weapons they used were powerful and threatening enough to injure the reincarnators. The scene shows a reincarnator being hit by several shots from human firearms. To defend themselves, the reincarnators began to unite and fight together against the humans. They combined their forces and abilities to face the threat presenting itself to them. With magic and martial arts combined, they became a powerful and formidable force. The scene shows the reincarnators fighting bravely against the human forces persecuting them. The organized reincarnators managed to protect themselves from attacks and strike back with force and power. In this process, some exceptionally strong reincarnators were revealed and stood out. They began to move to dominate this new world and establish their own power and influence. And to strengthen their own forces, they began to seek and gather other hidden reincarnators. But due to the complex interests of their past lives, forming alliances wasn't easy. Most small organizations ended up disbanding and only the strongest survived. Over time, groups of reincarnators with powerful leaders established themselves in every country in the world. These groups secretly seized power and formed complex relationships with the rulers. Yuri asks how many people know about the existence of reincarnators in the current world. The boy explains that few people know and that the rulers keep everything a secret. Yuri says that's enough and prepares to use her ice powers to end the conversation. She says she will grant him a comfortable end as payment for the information he gave. The scene changes to the snow-covered neighborhood and Yuri's mother talks on the phone about the phenomenon. She says she was coming back from shopping when large snowflakes started falling. Little Yuna is outside building a snowman and having fun with the unexpected snow. The little girl sings a song about the falling snow and enjoys the magical and special moment. Yuna continues singing about the celestial kingdom while a blue aura envelopes the area around her. The scene shows Yuri's leg glowing with the blue energy of her powerful ice magic. She appears in front of her younger sister who looks at her with admiration and surprise. So Yuri is shocked to see that Yuna saw her using her powers and calls her by name. Yuna's eyes shine with admiration and she is enchanted by the sight of her sister. The little girl runs and hugs Yuri tightly, calling her sister with great happiness. With glowing eyes she asks if Yuri is a fairy like Tinkerbell from the fairy tales. Awkwardly Yuri agrees and says yes, she is a fairy so as not to disappoint her sister. She then makes Yuna promise she will keep the secret and not tell anyone else. The next day Uram and his friend are at a fairy group event with a crowd of fans, and so friend complains about the crowd and Uram tells them to take a look and leave soon. And the MC says he is going to the restroom and asks the friend to wait for him there in the middle of the crowd. The scene shows the giant stadium where the event is happening with thousands of people present. The men from Hunter Hall are watching the crowd from above looking for Uram among the fans. The red-haired man spots him and confirms that is the boy they were looking for. He notices Uram is accompanied by a friend and prepares to put his plan into action. The redhead orders his subordinates to start the plan and they agree with the order. The scene changes to a hallway where we see a man with a staff badge walking. We see a sign indicating the fairy group's waiting room where the singers are getting ready. A man enters the room and tells the girls not to be nervous about the amount of fans. He tells them to do as usual and warm up their voices slowly before the performance. One of the girls asks where Yurian went and the man says she probably went to get some air, and so he guarantees she will return before the show starts and that there is nothing to worry about. Yurian is on a balcony watching the empty stage and the stadium bleachers. The young singer sighs and looks thoughtful while looking at the performance venue. Suddenly she feels an energy coming from somewhere and gets alert with the sensation. She looks at the top of the stadium and sees 3 people watching the crowd from afar. And the singer recognizes the movements of one of them and gets intrigued by their presence there, and she realizes the movements are familiar and that she has seen that somewhere before. The scene shows a flash of light coming from the top of the stadium where the men are watching. Uram looks at the panels with the photos of the singers and realizes his friend hasn't returned. So, he notes that the friend hasn't appeared yet and starts worrying about what might have happened. With a worried look, he remembers his new friend and fears he is in trouble. The guy then deduces his friend has serious constipation and that's why he is taking so long. The scene shows the men from Hunter Hall capturing Uram's friend and taking him away. They take him to the top of the stadium and say now they just need to wait for the boss to arrive. And so Yurian appears and confronts them, drawing their attention with her imposing presence on the spot. The redhead man turns surprised to see her there and doesn't understand how she reached them. And the singer says the student they captured seems to be a fan of hers and orders them to let him go. The redhead realizes she is also a reincarnator and says the boss will be happy to take her. Ram waits for his friend in front of the show panels with a worried expression on his face. He gets irritated with the friend's delay and calls him an idiot for not returning yet. And suddenly the MC feels a familiar energy passing by him in the middle of the crowd of fans. He notices two different coups colliding nearby and wonders if there is a fight happening. The guy doubts whether to get involved in the mess or simply ignore what is happening. He decides to forget the subject so as not to irritate his sister, but something makes him change his mind. With a serious expression, he turns around and starts walking toward the fight location. The MC feels something is wrong and cannot ignore the sensation bothering him. And the scene shows the explosion of energy coming from the top of a building near the concert venue. On the building's roof, we see Yuri defeating the men from Hunter Hall with ease and power. Ram jumps onto the roof and is shocked by the scene he finds before his eyes. He sees his friend lying on the ground and the Hunter Hall men defeated by the Singer. The MC finds his friend curled up in the corner and calls him by name worriedly. And so Ram approaches Yuri and confronts her about what happened to his friend and the other men. He checks his friend's pulse and is relieved to see he just fainted from the scare. And so Yuri defends herself, saying she saved the boy from the thugs and that he should thank her. The guy looks at the singer with a smile and realizes she has the same energy he felt. He notices a resemblance between her and his friend's memories about the fairy group. The MC admires the singer's beauty and praises her for being a true celestial beauty. With a confident smile, he asks if she is a reincarnator from the cult of the heavenly demon. He demands she reveal her identity if she really is a reincarnator from the demonic cult. A golden aura envelopes Yuri as she prepares to face Yoram's challenge. The singer says he is a friend of one of her fans and that she will give him one last chance, and she warns him to take his friend and leave, promising to let him live if he obeys. With a fighting stance, she prepares to attack in case he decides not to follow her order. Ram praises her bold attitude and releases his red and black aura, getting ready for battle, and he warns her he won't go easy just because she is a woman and stares at her with a smile. Yuri questions him about what he knows about her and prepares for the imminent confrontation. Ram charges at high speed with his power aura enveloping his feet and fists. The two stare each other down with their power auras ready for the battle about to start. Their fists collide in a powerful impact, creating a wave of energy around them. The scene shows the clash of powers between Ram's red aura and Yuri's golden aura. The singer manages to hold the MC's fist and prepares to counterattack with force. She finds an opening in his defense and attacks him with a quick and precise blow to the stomach. The blow throws Yuri into the air and he is hurled far away by the force of Yuri's attack, and he slides across the ground and prepares to strike back at the blow that caught him by surprise in the fight. Yuri teases him, saying that was all he needed to act so triumphant, and the guy gets up from the ground and seems impressed by the singer's strength and skill. With a smile, he admits she is stronger than he thought and that he will take her seriously. The singer gets excited about Yoram's declaration and says that is wonderful for the fight. Yuri says it's been a while since she had a real warm-up and gets ready to fight. Ram laughs and says it's been a while since he felt the thrill of a good fight like that. The singer stares at him with a confident smile, ready for the confrontation to come. The two fly in opposite directions, preparing for a powerful and decisive attack. Ram warns he will attack with everything and dares her to block his blow with all her strength. Yuri prepares to defend herself and concentrates her energy in her arms to block the attack. The two clash in hand-to-hand combat, trading blows at high speed and with great force. The singer is impressed by Yoram's strength and feels the impact of his blows on her body. She stumps hard on the ground and prepares to counterattack with a powerful and precise kick. Yuri lands a kick on Yoram, but he manages to defend himself and calls her desperate. The guy provokes her, asking if she is running out of breath, and grabs her by the neck. The scene shows Ram's hand squeezing Yuri's neck with strength and determination, and Singer just smiles and doesn't seem fazed by the situation she finds herself in. Ram realizes something is wrong and wonders if that is some kind of trap. Yuri stomps hard on the ground and prepares for a quick and unexpected move. She spins her body and lands a kick on Yuri, who is caught by surprise by the counterattack. With a victorious smile, the singer says she found an opening in his defense to attack. She then attacks him with a series of quick and precise blows that leave him unable to react. Yuri is shocked by the singer's strength and speed and cannot defend against the attacks. He is thrown far away by Yuri's last blow, which hurls him with force into the air. The scene shows the impact of Yuri's blow breaking the roof of a nearby building. Yuri falls on the roof floor with some injuries and looks surprised by what happened. He recognizes the martial art the singer used and is shocked by the discovery he made. Yuri takes a deep breath and prepares to continue the fight with her golden aura shining. The MC gets up and recognizes the technique as the divine art of the diamond Bodhi. Long ago there was a man who reached the peak of external arts only through his hard work and training, and besides that he was a foolish martial artist who waited 400 days in one spot just to fight our boy. Looking very focused, this legendary warrior is known by everyone as Sangwon. Thus the duel with Sangwon started after he challenged our protagonist to a crazy fight, and so continuing the battle without knowing when to stop, they both showed incredible strength on the field, and so because it seemed like the duel would never end unless one of them died right there. While risking their lives in a bloody battle, the fierce exchange with that tireless guy stayed intense, only seeing its end after our hero dealt the final blow while crossing the threshold of death itself. Managing to take down this god of battle who seemed like he would never fall, he became a guardian, turning into a literal demon whenever a fight starts. He was truly a terrifying opponent to face, but when smiling he was actually foolishly innocent and showed a very different side of his personality. Ever since that day, Sangwon always reliably protected our hero and stayed by his side. Switching to the present, our protagonist asks if the girl on the roof is really Sangwon, and so feeling quite confused he wonders what happened to his old friend to make her look like that. Surprised that he even knows her true identity, the girl looks back with a serious expression, and since things have come to this, she says she cannot just let him leave the place so easily. Charging her energy, she prepares to attack while a bright yellow aura starts to surround her body, and seeing that she is really crossing the line, our hero starts to get pretty annoyed with the situation. Deciding that she needs some education, he releases a massive wave of red energy all around him. Activating his heavenly demon divine art, the protagonist prepares to show his true power once again. Seeing that red energy, the girl gets totally shocked because she recognizes that legendary technique. Then our hero prepares to launch the first form of his secret art while the aura gets even stronger, because he is about to use the fallen dragon fist move and a giant dragon appears behind him. Looking at the reflection in her eyes, she realizes this is definitely the professor's special power, and so instead of being scared, she actually starts to smile because she remembers those old days, and so mentioning that this brings back memories, she gets ready to face the attack head-on, and shouting a battle cry, the girl charges her glowing yellow fist to meet our boy in the middle. Thus a massive explosion happens when their powers clash and the entire rooftop starts to shake, and so even though she is strong, the impact makes her struggle as blood starts to come out of her mouth. After that huge burst of energy, they both get pushed back by the force of the powerful collision. Landing on the ground, they stay focused while the dust begins to settle around the area. Taking a deep breath, our boy looks pretty beaten up and his clothes are all torn from the fight. Also, he wonders to himself if it is still too much for his body to use the divine arts so freely, and suddenly he gets confused when he notices something very strange about his opponent's behavior. Surprisingly, the girl is now on her knees bowing down to him in a very respectful way, and so, respectfully, she greets him as the professor, and the atmosphere of the fight disappears completely. Ordering her to raise her head, our hero looks down at her with a serious expression on his face. Looking up slowly, she has a very gentle smile while staring at her old master again. Besides that, she feels very happy to see him after such a long time and smiles brightly. However, our protagonist starts to yell at her for being so dumb and not recognizing him earlier, and so, crying with joy, the girl tells our hero that she missed him a lot because she could never forget her legendary professor. Moving on to the next scene, the situation remains calm while they both sit down to have a real talk about the past. Curious about her new appearance, our protagonist asks what happened to make him turn into a girl in this new life. Explaining the situation, Sangwon says she simply reincarnated in this body and became a beauty as she grew up. Because she wanted to find her old allies, she became a famous idol and used her fame to attract the attention of everyone. And so, shouting back at the boy, she says he should be praising her since her plan actually worked to bring them together. Thinking about other allies, our hero hears that another elite warrior named Chien Hagui was also looking for him. Surprised by the news, our boy asks where that man is right now, but she says she has no idea where he went. And so, reaching into her top, she pulls out a secret letter that the warrior left behind just in case she found the professor. Taking the paper, our hero complains that she is way too adapted to her new body and wonders why he wrote a letter. Reading the message, he sees that Chien Hagui calls Sangwon a fool who would definitely forget any verbal message. Seeing his friend being called a dummy, the protagonist wonders if the guy is looking down on her just a bit too much, and standing there with a silly expression, Sangwon just smiles without knowing that she is being roasted in the letter. Agreeing with the message, our hero realizes the warrior has excellent judging of character since the girl is indeed a fool. Continuing to read, he learns that powerful organizations are scouting reincarnators and many battles are happening now. Realizing that the reincarnators are organized, our boy gets serious because the world is more dangerous than he thought. Looking at the defeated enemies on the ground, he recognizes the group called Hunter Hall from the warrior's warning. And crumpling the letter in his hand, our protagonist gets worried since there are many guys like that scattered around. And so, thinking about his loved ones, he fears that everyone around him will be in danger if these groups keep attacking. Wondering what to do next, the boy is interrupted when Sangwon says she has one very important thing to ask him. Our boy asks if the legendary witch was finally dealt with in the past and hopes she is gone. Resentment fills the air as Sangwon remembers the time when the witch froze the entire world. Our protagonist scratches his face while thinking about how the cult unified everything back then. And besides that, the ring on his finger suddenly starts to glow with a bright red light. Looking at his hand, the hero realizes that the magic ring from the witch is reacting now. Therefore he wonders if the dangerous guys from Hunter Hall also attacked the witch just like before. In his mind he sees a vision of those cowards taking a small child as a hostage because they are evil. Turning to his friend, the protagonist says they will talk later and gets ready to run away. Leaving the other guy on the floor, our boy uses a teleportation skill to disappear instantly. Sangwon is totally shocked and praises the professor for learning such complex toast magic. At that same moment, Yuri is using her ice powers to create a massive crystal in the air. Facing a terrifying monster, she tells the creature to die while floating in the dark sky. Thus we see the exterior of a normal-looking house where the action is about to happen. Our hero teleports right into the middle of a bedroom while blue sparks fly around the place. And feeling a lot of pain, he complains about how his body reacts to the internal energy usage. Staring at a massive blue portal, he wonders if this is the result of the earlier fight. Stretching out his hand, the hero touches the spatial rift because he wants to see where it leads. Looking very focused, he prepares himself for another round of intense action and battle. Facing the giant Sai the monster, our boy realizes this opponent is way too strong to hold back. Yuri senses a presence and looks up with surprise when she sees the professor arrived. The creature in front of them is definitely a reaper, as its terrifying mask shows nothing but cold eyes. And our boy wonders why this monster is suddenly here while he rushes into the battle with a determined look. But the reaper swings its huge scythe from above, trying to cut down both of them at the same time. Because the blade is sharp and covered in a dark energy that seems to consume the light around it, thus Yuri manages to dodge the lethal strike just in time while the monster misses its target completely. However, the girl asks how he dares to attack her, and she fires back a blast of cold energy against the fiend. Yet the reaper is too fast and continues its relentless assault with that massive weapon in the dark sky. And besides that, the clash of their powers creates a loud noise that echoes through the entire dimension. Even so, Yuri feels that the enemy is stronger than she expected and she struggles to keep her defense up. Also, the skeleton monster delivers a hard hit that sends the girl flying backwards through the air. Shouting that he will kill the witch, the reaper prepares another devastating move to end the fight for good. And then a massive shockwave is released from the weapon, making the whole place tremble with pure power. Impacted by the blast, Yuri falls down while looking very hurt and coughing from the monster's strike. Seeing his friend in danger, Naworum gets really angry and screams her name while rushing to help. While the girl is on the ground, the reaper aims its scythe down to deliver a final blow to her head. Jumping with all his strength, our hero Naworum leaps into the air to stop the execution just in time. And our protagonist reaches the monster while red energy starts to boil around his whole body. Activating his secret technique, he prepares the first form and a giant dragon rises behind him again. Thus the fallen comet fist strike hits the reaper directly and creates a bright explosion of red light. Landing safely, our hero protects Yuri as she looks up and says the name of Naworum with surprise. Still annoyed, Yuri looks at our boy and asks why on earth he is butting into her business right now. Reacting with total fury, our hero screams that he just saved her life and asks what that creepy reaper is. Revealing the dark past, this monster was the gatekeeper of the ice castle and killed half of the cult members. Calmly explaining the situation, she reveals she is actually under contract with the reaper, which shocks our protagonist. Calling her insane, our protagonist can't believe she summoned such a terrifying creature just to protect her house. Instead of apologizing, the girl points her finger and shouts that everything happening is actually all his fault. Mentioning a recent attack, she says a reincarnator came looking for him, but she luckily managed to deal with them. Glaring at him, she continues by saying he is the one always causing unnecessary trouble for everyone around him. Realizing the danger, our hero understands they definitely need a strong guardian to keep the whole family safe. Looming behind them, the giant reaper gets super annoyed because they are completely ignoring his presence during the fight. While they keep arguing, she calls him stupid, and our boy reminds her that he just saved her life once again. Losing his patience, the monster lets out a terrifying scream and promises to kill every single one of them. Even with the threat, they just stand there looking at each other while the reaper gets more frustrated nearby. And deciding to finish one first, the reaper calls them insolent brats while the girl tells him to go ahead. Starting her magic ritual, she tells our boy to stay out of it, but he reminds her of the previous knockout. Looking quite surprised, our hero watches as the blue energy starts to swirl around the girl with great intensity. Feeling his body burn from the internal energy, he wonders if this pain is the aftermath of his previous spar. Bleeding from his nose, our hero realizes he must defeat this guy even if he has to strain himself completely. Powering up together, they both release massive auras as the red and blue energies fill the entire dimension. Chanting a powerful spell, the girl calls upon the frozen guardian to bestow the power needed to pierce the enemy. Now Urim is bleeding from his mouth and nose while thinking that the witch is preparing a very strong spell right now. Because the Reaper decides to kill our hero first, he activates the fourth form of his heavenly demon art immediately. Furthermore, he summons the massive Sky Dragon Descent move, which fills the entire area with terrifying power and energy. Surprising the monster completely, the giant dragon head bites down and blocks the scythe attack from hitting our boy. However, our hero is reaching his limit as blood starts pouring from his eyes while he tries to finish the job quickly. At that same time, the witch prepares her icicle sword magic and a giant blue circle appears right above her head. Thus the dragon and huge ice swords clash against the Reaper in a final combined attack to end the fierce battle. And so, shouting that she will finish this in one blow, the girl watches as the creature screams in total pain and defeat. Finally, the girl says it is over while standing there looking calm after releasing all that incredible freezing magic. And stepping forward on the glowing blue platform, she looks at the aftermath of their crazy fight against the dark monster. And seeing the Reaper pinned down by magic swords, she tries to talk to Urim about what happened a few minutes earlier. But she realizes something is wrong and touches his shoulder when she sees he is still bleeding quite a bit. Suddenly our hero collapses on the floor while the girl looks down at him with a serious and questioning expression. Looking very closely at him, she seems to be thinking about how much he sacrificed just to help her in this duel. Laying on the ground with blood on his face, the protagonist looks totally exhausted after using so much internal energy. Wondering if this is a case of Clyde deviation, the witch stares at him and remembers his reckless nature from long ago. Recalling his past life, she remembers how he always went around causing trouble and starting fires everywhere he went. And so also she thinks it might be better for the family if he just died right here since he is so dangerous to everyone. Switching to a memory, the Reaper explains he is a legendary being from the demon world who rivals 52 rulers. Lastly, the girl in her white dress looks at him and asks if he is only 53rd in the rankings of that place. The lady complains she went through so much trouble to summon a Reaper that is only in 53rd place, and the dark monster gets totally offended after being called weak by a mere mortal like her. And so, but he yells that a mortal who won't even live 100 years shouldn't dare to insult him like that. However, she just tells him to stop the noise and reminds him that the loser becomes the winner's slave. Thus the skeleton claims the contract will remain valid until one of them is finally destroyed for good, and he swings his massive scythe with all his might while the witch prepares her blue magic circles. Eventually the Reaper ends up losing the fight and the girl sits on top of him to show her victory. And because he became her slave, his new task was to guard the giant ice castle where the witch lived. And furthermore, routine intruders from other worlds tried to enter, but the Reaper easily drove them away. Also, fighting off the Imperial forces became his daily life while he protected the frozen palace entrance. And so, but it was very boring for him since all the warriors were far too weak to give him a real challenge. And so on top of that, he explains that the witch wouldn't even talk to him or agree to a small spar. And besides, whenever he spoke to her, she just looked away with an icy stare and ignored him completely. And she told him to buzz off because she was too busy to waste time with her own guard. And so also she threatened to make him less than a guard dog if he tried to crawl near her throne again. And so in other words, no matter how strong she was, the witch was still a human being with a limited lifespan. And so, since the time given to humans is just like the blink of an eye, he thought he could just wait it out. Therefore, if he just endured, the contract would eventually end when she died and left her grave. While he lived on in resignation, our protagonist suddenly appeared leading his powerful cult. Finally, our hero marched his massive army to the frozen lands to subjugate the legendary Ice Witch. There cannot be two suns under one sky, according to the legends of their previous life and martial world. Therefore, our hero encountered an irregular existence equal to himself during his time as a powerful demon king. Because the witch merely endured endless time in that barren permafrost, she actually became way too strong to defeat. Also, her sheer power offended him, which was reason enough for the heavenly demon to march on her frozen castle. And despite the fierce fight to protect her, the Reaper lost and was driven back to the demon world by our protagonist. Unable to forget the disgrace of being enslaved by a human, the Reaper stayed back in the demon world for years. Then he trained intensely so he would never lose to a human a second time under that bloody red moon. But he lost again in this new era after being pinned down by the magical icicle swords of the reincarnated witch. Losing to the same human twice feels like a total nightmare for the poor creature who is now being judged. Suddenly the tiny Reaper claims the contract is invalid because a third party interfered during the ritual itself. Shutting him up quickly, Yuri makes the little demon submit instantly until he says yes sir with a very scared face. Unexpectedly, the witch starts using her frost magic while our hero Urim stays unconscious on the sofa. To think the heavenly demon also reincarnated as her twin little brother is a very weird twist of fate indeed. Besides, she notes that he absorbed mana and remains as warlike as ever even in this modern peaceful world. Threatening the little guy with some re-education, Yuri shows that her cold personality has not changed at all. Looking confused, the small Reaper just stares while the girl focuses her energy on fixing our boy's internal state. And come to think of it, she is cooling his mana with frost magic to stabilize his core after that intense battle. and this should prevent any new core damage even though absolute rest will be needed until he fully recovers his health. And saying it is all done, the witch finishes saving her old rival while the small reaper watches from the background. And finally she kicks the couch and tells the idiot to stop whining and get up while he screams in total pain. Looking at the air conditioner, the scene shifts to the quiet room while our hero lets out a tired sigh. And besides that, the poor boy is feeling totally sore on the couch because of all the crazy action he went through. And feeling worried, our protagonist asks if it is true that the enemies from Hunter Hall tracked them to the house. Confirming his fears, Yuri says it is all his fault while she looks pretty tired of all this drama lately. Thinking about her future, the girl only wants a peaceful life and wonders why everyone refuses to leave her alone. And standing up suddenly, the witch decides she has made up her mind about what to do with these annoying guys. Because she won't sit still anymore, this lady prepares to make the first move against those who disturb her peace. Looking down at Naworum, the master says she will let him in on her secret plan to deal with their problem, and so, pointing her finger with authority, she declares that he is her subordinate number 2 behind the Reaper number 1. Getting very angry at that insult, our hero asks if she lost her mind and who she thinks she is talking to. Ignoring his complaints, she charges her magic finger with a blue glow to show him who is actually in charge. Poking him repeatedly, she causes Naworum to scream in pain while calling him a simple collaborator for now. Sobbing on the couch, our boy promises to get her back someday, but she forces him to call her big sister. And trembling with fear, the protagonist watches as the witch leans in close with a very intimidating expression on her face. And so, touching his head, she tells him not to touch her hair, and keeps treating him like a complete amateur. And so, also she mentions that first they need some important intel on the Hunter Hall group to start the counterattack. And so, since she needs a high-ranking traitor, the text reveals that one actually exists and is ready to show up. Switching the location to a fancy house, the gates open while a mysterious visitor arrives in a dark vehicle. And so, pulling up to the entrance, the black car stops, and someone important is ready to get out of the back seat. Stepping onto the pavement with stylish boots, a new character arrives to change the course of the story once more. So, our girl waves happily while running toward the entrance because she believes she brought someone very special along. But the ice witch blocks the gate with her hand because she is not in the mood for any visitors right now. And so, looking for Murum, the blonde girl asks the resident to call him out while Yuri wonders if she is a fool. However, Yuri tells her he will be back soon and she can wait inside or leave the place immediately. So the guest thanks her and walks through the gate while the two women maintain a very cold atmosphere. Floating high in the sky, the tiny Reaper senses a different aura and starts to investigate the situation carefully. Because Reapers are experts at detecting energy, he warns Yuri that the newcomer is definitely a powerful reincarnator. Surprised by the sudden warning, Yuri glows her eyes with blue energy and prepares for a dangerous confrontation. Facing each other, the two girls prepare for battle while the giant Reaper hovers behind the Ice Witch. Recognizing the familiar energy, the blonde girl realizes she is finally facing her old rival from the past life, and shouting with fury, she asks if the witch is after the Lord Heavenly Demon too and starts to power up. A bright yellow aura surrounds the girl because she is ready to show her true strength in this modern world. And thinking about the past, she wants to finally settle the grudge that has lasted for more than 1,000 years. At the same time, Yuri wonders what our protagonist is doing to keep attracting so many weird guys like this, and so deciding that this whole thing is annoying as hell, she prepares to finish the duel quickly with her ice powers. Standing on magical circles, they both prepare to clash in this dark space while their energies fill the air. And so, seeing the magical barrier, the blonde girl gets excited because she can go all out without worrying about witnesses. Suddenly she dashes forward with incredible speed while leaving a trail of golden light behind her in the dimension, and charging her fist with massive power, she aims to end this fight instantly and strikes at her old enemy. But someone tells them to stop as a giant scythe blocks the attack and prevents them from destroying the house. And startled by the sudden intrusion, our girl Sanguan looks around with a very confused face while a massive blade swings toward her. Seeing the danger, she immediately activates her secret Vajra divine art to protect herself from the giant monster in front of her. Even though the Reaper is massive, our hero stays strong and uses her supreme aura to hold back that giant weapon with pure strength. Straining her muscles to the limit, she barely manages to stop the heavy blow while the dark energy of the creature pushes against her. Furious because someone interrupted her sacred duel, she screams at the Reaper for being such a total bastard and getting in the way. Getting ready for a counterattack, our girl focuses all her energy into her feet to move faster than the eye can follow right now. And jumping high into the air, she yells for everyone to stay out of her way while her yellow light fills the whole dark space. Suddenly a giant ice crystal forms in the sky and the Reaper is shocked that she could counter such a powerful move so easily. And floating above everyone, the Ice Witch decides that her opponent is no amateur and she definitely cannot let the girl live after this. And so, laughing with a crazy smile, our girl tells the witch to just try and hit her if she really thinks she has the power to do it. And so, looking very cold as usual, Yuri says she was already planning to end things even without the blonde girl begging for a fight. fight, and charging a lethal blow she sends a massive shard of ice crashing down toward the ground while telling her enemy to die finally. Just when things are about to get messy, a little girl named Yuna rushes in out of nowhere and screams for her big sister to stop. Recognizing the voice, Yuri loses her focus and asks how her little sibling managed to find this hidden place in the middle of a battle. Running across the magic circles, the small child ignores the danger and tries to get between the two powerful warriors fighting, and so bewildered by the sudden appearance of a kid, the blonde fighter stops her attack and wonders who this brat is supposed to be. And so while everything goes wrong, a huge explosion of ice happens and the witch screams in terror for the safety of her precious little sister. Meanwhile, back in the normal world, a cute white cat walks peacefully near the house while the sun shines brightly on the garden. But looking at the beautiful blue sky, it seems like the weather is perfect for a relaxing day away from all that supernatural combat. Walking through the front door, our boy Nayuram announces he is home while feeling totally tired from his long day at school. Entering the house, our boy notices some strange brown boots on the floor and wonders if the witch brought a guest over. And so furthermore, his mother arrives with a tray of snacks while mentioning that a special friend finally stopped by to visit him. Because she is smiling so happily, the mother says she never knew her son was actually friends with such a famous celebrity. Thus the blonde girl jumps up with joy and welcomes the sect leader home while the little sister also waves at her big brother. Looking totally shocked, our protagonist yells and asks Sanguang why she is suddenly in his house acting like that. Meanwhile, the whole living room is chaotic because the blonde girl is flexing her muscles alongside the cute little sister, and thinking about the situation, she realized the legendary witch reincarnated as the older sister of her own sect leader. Even though the girl does not like her, she thinks about how the blonde warrior saved the little sister from a big trouble. Also, she remembers the powerful guardian technique called the Vajra divine art that was used during that crazy fight. And so, instead of fighting, they now act like a weird family while the blonde girl keeps showing off her muscles to the kid. Plus, she hugs the little sister while praising the beautiful mother and acting like a polite guest in their home. Mentioning that the leader was an orphan in the past life, the girl gets emotional seeing he finally has a warm family. Crying with total joy, she shouts about the wonderful news while Naram feels like his energy is being completely drained. Confused by the orphan talk, the mother asks what is happening, so the witch lies saying it is just a social media trend. And so finally our boy Nayaram pushes the loud girl away while the mother and the sister tell them to make themselves at home later. Moving to the bedroom, a sign on the door says that a knock is required before entering Nayaram's private personal space. Our boy sits on the floor and asks why the girl showed up, but the witch simply says she is purely his own guest. With a confident smile, the blonde warrior declares she finally managed to capture a high-ranking member of the enemy group. Still questioning the situation, Nayuram asks how that happened while they both stare at her with a doubtful expression. To explain her story, she tells them about a fan with crazy energy and how she tested him to find out his true identity. Yuri suspects that the fan might be lying, so she demands to meet him personally right now. And besides that, San Guang says she knew that would happen and tells them to meet him in her car outside. Also, we meet Kim Moo-chin, who works as an executive for the dangerous Hunter Hall group. Thus he sits at a cafe and asks why they are so curious about his secret organization, and the Ice Witch directly states that she plans to destroy his group and needs some help. Hearing such a crazy claim, the man gets totally shocked and cannot believe his ears right now. However, he warns that it is impossible because they have at least 30 high-level masters over there. But San Guang gets offended and asks if he knows he is speaking to two legendary warriors here. Realizing that he is facing the heavenly demon and the Ice Witch, the man starts to tremble a bit, and then he reveals that in his past life he was actually a monk belonging to the Shaolin Temple. While living in a chaotic world, he repeats his training day after day in a very simple way. Therefore, he made a decision to enjoy this new life to the fullest with money and fame, and consequently the protagonists think this guy is an idiot, but at least he will not lie to them. Also, the executive admits that Hunter Hall is a huge nuisance to him lately because of their behavior. Besides, they blackmail him for huge tributes and boss him around doing all sorts of dirty work. Hence, he promises to stand by their side if they manage to annihilate the organization completely. And soon the witch tells him to share every single piece of information he has right now. And explaining their influence, he says they commit murder and kidnapping while pulling strings in politics. And so finally they learn the headquarters is a trading company, and they must infiltrate the place together. And so our boy is ready to barge in right now because they are bad news, but Yuri tells him to wait. Yuram gets annoyed and asks the Ice Witch what the big problem is while she looks at him with a serious face. But she explains that they cannot just go in blindly because the enemies might flee during all the commotion. Also, Kim Moo-jin mentions that most employees are just civilians and they must be careful with the innocent workers. And so, then the witch says they should target the board meeting when all the key executives will be together in one spot. A few days later they finally arrive at the trading company headquarters, which is a massive glass building in the city. And so staring at the building, Yuram is ready to sweep them all away so they never bother his family ever again. And standing before the tall tower, our hero asks if they should go crush those guys right now to end this fight. And so, but the witch tells him to wait because first they need to deal with the security cameras around the perimeter. Suddenly her eyes glow with blue energy and she uses her frost magic to disable the electronic surveillance system. So because of that the camera starts to freeze up and smoke while the internal circuits are destroyed by the cold. And so, moving toward the building, the witch warns the boy not to act recklessly if they want to finish the job correctly. Looking at the top of the wall we can see the frosted cameras are now useless while the duo advances quietly. However, the witch suddenly gets a phone call from her mom and answers her with a very calm tone of voice. Back home the mother asks Yuri to watch little Yuna for an hour while she goes out to do some urgent chores. And so feeling a bit annoyed by the timing the witch tells her mom that she will handle the sister right away. So turning to our hero she orders him to sit and wait quietly until she comes back to help him with the attack. Even though she does not trust him at all she tells him again to stay put and not cause any trouble today. Once Yuri leaves in a flash of light our protagonist is left standing completely alone in the middle of the street. But our hero feels his body itching and he says he cannot stand waiting around while the enemies are so close. Deciding to act alone our boy puts on a black cap and says he can handle this whole mess by himself just fine. Our boy adjusts his cap and prepares for the big mission because the executives are currently busy with a meeting. Then he gathers his energy and jumps with incredible force while the wind swirls around his dark outfit right now. And with a single powerful step he launches himself forward to reach the destination in just a few seconds. Thus he arrives at the massive glass skyscraper and prepares to infiltrate the enemy headquarters alone for once. And so standing on the edge of the roof the protagonist looks at the city view while planning his next move inside the tower. Moving quickly across the rooftop our hero dashes with speed and stays low to avoid being seen by any guards. After entering the building he hides behind a wall to check the area and make sure the coast is clear. Besides that he feels glad that no one has caught him until now while he continues his secret infiltration mission. In deciding to move deeper our protagonist heads down the stairs to find the floor where the meeting is happening. And so walking through the empty white hallway he stays focused because he knows the dangerous enemies are very close nearby. And suddenly he notices an open door belonging to the security room and decides to check if it can be useful. As expected his instincts are amazing because he found a perfect vantage point to see everyone in one go. And so recalling the information from Kim Woo-jin he knows that the meeting place is on the 18th floor conference hall. Looking at the many screens in the room he searches for the right camera feed to locate his main targets. Finally he finds it and sees a group of suspicious people gathered around a large table in the secret room. However, two security guards suddenly enter the place and yell at our boy for being inside a restricted area. And they demand to know how he even got inside the building since all the entrances were supposed to be blocked. Realizing he was found our hero gets pretty annoyed because he knows the witch will get mad if things go wrong. And knowing there is no other choice the protagonist prepares his fist to knock them out before they can alert anyone. With one swift strike he hits both guards at once and tells them to stay down for a bit on the floor. Confronting our hero a guard yells at him while looking very suspicious about his dark outfit. Because he is surprised the man asks who our boy is while preparing to handle the situation. Reaching for the desk the guard quickly presses a red button to trigger the whole building's alarm system. Grabbing the guy by his shirt our protagonist looks up as he realizes his secret cover is finally blown. Thus a loud siren begins to ring through the entire skyscraper making everything feel very tense and noisy. Inside the meeting room the executives stop talking and wonder why the emergency alarm is suddenly going off. Wondering if a rat has slipped inside the leader asks what is going on and demands a report. So ordering his guards to be alert the boss says they must capture the intruder and bring him over. And starting to move fast our boy dashes across the floor while trying to reach the conference hall quickly. Thinking to himself our hero knows he has to arrive before those dangerous guys have a chance to flee. Suddenly he finds his targets and stands before them while a cold atmosphere fills the narrow hallway. And deciding to take charge the manager tells a colleague to look for other intruders and request backup. Besides that he feels very confident and says they probably won't even need any extra help to win. Sneering at our protagonist the man tells the kid to kneel down and prepare for some serious pain. But our hero is faster and delivers a massive kick that lands directly on the executive's arrogant face. Sent flying backward by the impact the manager looks totally defeated while his friends watch in pure shock. And so shouting for everyone to catch the brat the other men in suits start running toward our boy. Nevertheless our hero stays calm and continues his charge to finish the mission and wipe them all out. Activating her powers a woman from the group creates a magical shield while waiting for her backup to arrive. And so, looking very determined she tells the others that she will support them until everyone else joins the fight. He starts by sending a big guy flying with a powerful hit while everyone watches in total shock. And since the enemies decided to stay and fight our hero says that just makes things a lot easier for him. And then our boy stands on the back of a defeated guard while humming a very relaxed song to himself. While checking his phone now Aram keeps singing about dreams even though he is in the middle of a raid. Standing over several beaten men he answers a call from the witch and tries to act like a normal student. Because she is at home with little Eunice, she asks him if he is being a good boy and waiting quietly. Naturally, our hero lies and says he is obviously doing exactly what she told him to do right now. But Yuri gets suspicious because his voice is echoing and she wonders if he actually went in there alone. Making a quick excuse about his old phone, he walks through the hallway while searching for the meeting room. Finally reaching the conference hall on the 18th floor, the protagonist prepares to crash the big party. And so, even though he is talking to the witch, he stands right in front of the giant double doors ready to move. Saying he will stay perfectly still, he kicks the door open with a loud bang to surprise the group inside. Everyone in the large meeting room is shocked to see the intruder they call a rat standing before them. And hanging up the phone, our boy tells the witch he is busy meeting someone and will call her back later. Looking straight at the silver-haired leader in the back, Nayuram asks if he is the boss of the group, and suddenly the red-haired executive steps forward and demands to know what business the brat has with them. Adjusting his black cap, our hero smiles and acts like he is just here to have some fun with the guild. And besides, he reminds the red-haired guy about the time he got beaten up by Soyrian and looked like a coward. Getting very angry, the executive claims he only lost because he let his guard down and wants to teach a lesson. However, our protagonist cracks his knuckles and promises to make them regret every single mistake they made today. And so Nayuram warns they shouldn't have messed with his friend and promises to stop them from lurking around ever again. Walking forward with confidence, the silver-haired leader shows his presence while the tension in the room keeps rising. Surrounded by his subordinates, the boss stands tall and looks directly at our hero with a very calm and collected face. Furthermore, he offers an apology for the mistake his men made, but the atmosphere remains heavy during this conversation. However, our boy asks if the leader knows that an apology cannot fix what they did to his peaceful daily life recently. Looking behind him, Nayuram sees the executive woman and the red-haired guy crying out for their powerful guild master, and so, ordering them to raise their heads, the boss says he won't reprimand them because the situation was out of their control. Meanwhile, he calls them trash who couldn't handle a big shot like our protagonist from the very beginning of the fight. Admitting that the student wasn't an opponent to be taken lightly, the silver-haired man starts to show his own energy. Identifying the boy as the one who defeated Gita, the leader looks quite impressed by Nayuram's hidden martial skills, explaining that it is natural for the weak to lose to the strong. He mentions that Gita was a very skilled warrior. Also feeling a strange aura, he asks our hero what his real name was in his past life before coming to this world, and so refusing to answer, our protagonist says he has no name to give to someone who is clearly weaker than him right now. Suddenly the silver-haired man smiles and starts telling a story about how Gita was his comrade in the past life. Describing him as a famous spirit master, he says the red-haired guy was strong enough to take on a whole dragon alone. And thinking about the past, Nayuram asks if he is seeking revenge for the battle the Ice Witch fought so long ago. But the guild master tells the boy to hear him out because he has a much bigger plan than just some simple old revenge, and questioning the reason why otherworlders reincarnated on Earth, specifically those who were called the Strong Ones before. And so glancing at his subordinates, he claims some defective ones slipped into, making the executives feel very embarrassed. And finally he reveals his crazy theory and claims that this Earth is actually a stage built only to select a new god. Yuram listens to the leader explain that the final winner will become the god of all existing space-time worlds. Furthermore, the man stretches out his hand and invites our boy to join him in this ultimate journey for power, because he believes that on the day he reaches divinity he will need a worthy person standing right by his side. Also, he claims that other warriors had limits while our protagonist is clearly different and has the right qualifications. And despite the great offer, our hero stays silent while his hands tremble from the annoyance of hearing such nonsense. Then Nayuram mentions that he lived for a very long time in the past and knows many fake gods. Looking at the executives, he says that not a single one of those self-proclaimed gods was ever a normal person, and because of that our boy activates his red aura and states that he never serves under anyone weaker than himself. Realizing that talking is no longer useful, the silver-haired leader sighs and prepares for a real physical confrontation. And suddenly the man ignites his orange flames and speaks about the effort needed to gain true talent in this world. Thus he moves his foot forward and promises to personally show our hero why he is the one in charge. At the same time, our protagonist charges with a massive punch while his dark energy swirls around his entire arm. And so, however, the boss dodges the strike with a smirk and claims that he is destined to become a god soon. Using his fire art, he generates intense heat to block the boy and show off his superior magical capabilities. And our hero continues to attack with speed while trying to break through the orange flames of the enemy leader. And besides that, the man in the suit looks very relaxed and confident while maintaining his powerful fighting stance. Suddenly a huge explosion of red and orange light happens as their powers finally clash with extreme violence. Looking at his blood-covered hands, Nayuram says he should apologize, but the boss thinks he is judging too fast. Eventually the man suggests he will accept the apology if our hero simply gets on his knees right there. And finally he shows a very malicious grin because he thinks he has already defeated our protagonist in this duel. Our hero smirks while noticing that the king of small fries is actually tougher than he originally thought. Thus the boy vanishes in a blur of red energy to launch a massive attack against the arrogant leader. Because he strikes with speed, the silver-haired boss groans in pain as our hero lands a direct hit. But the executive refuses to back down and starts his counterattack while fire swirls around his body. Also, our protagonist mocks him by saying that for a quiet guy he has way too many openings. Therefore the manager stumbles back, losing his balance because the pressure from our boy is just too much, and so still they keep clashing in the hallway while red and orange energy fills the whole area with heat. Furthermore, the boss swings a fiery fist trying to catch the boy off guard during their intense struggle. But Yuri ducks under the flames and delivers another punch that shakes the entire floor of the office. Suddenly the leader coughs up blood as he realizes this dark energy feels far too familiar to be normal. So our hero activates his heavenly demon divine art while his smile gets even more terrifying than before. Besides, he prepares the first move of the falling phoenix fist while a giant dragon appears behind him. The clash creates a massive blast that pushes everyone back because of the pure raw power involved. Shocked by the revelation, the executive wonders if the legendary heavenly demon has truly reincarnated. And despite the fear, he summons his own exploding demon fire art to protect himself from the coming storm. In other words, the battle reaches a new level while the two monsters fight inside the corporate building. And so meanwhile the other members watch the duel in terror as they shout for their master to win somehow. Our protagonist just mocks them while promising to teach the man how to punch properly today. Our hero delivers a brutal kick that sends the boss flying across the room into the wall. The boy shows a cold grin because he knows this fight is basically over for his opponent. Now Yuri is bleeding heavily while thinking that the witch is surely preparing a massive spell to finish the job. Furthermore, the enemy wants to kill our protagonist first, but he activates the fourth form of his heavenly art immediately. Because he is desperate, he summons the Sky Dragon Descent, which is a legendary move that fills the entire area with red energy. Suddenly the giant dragon head appears and bites the monster's side to protect the hero during the intense clash. And despite the pain, our hero shouts for the witch to finish him off as blood continues to pour out of his eyes. Meanwhile, Yuri prepares heretical sword magic and a giant blue circle lights up the dark sky with freezing power. Then she releases several magical swords that fall like a storm onto the dark monster while everything starts to explode. Thus the witch declares she will end the fight in a single blow while the Reaper screams in pure agony and defeat. Finally she stays calm and says the battle is over while the freezing aura starts to fade from the magical dimension. Walking across the platform, she looks around at the aftermath of the fight and tries to find her injured brother. Eventually she reaches Yuri and says it is all done, but she notices that he is still in very bad shape. And however, she gets worried and touches his shoulder when she sees that he is actually not moving at all. Suddenly the boy collapses on the ground as his body finally gives up after using so much internal energy during the raid. Looking very serious, she stares at her brother while wondering if he really sacrificed himself to save the family this way. Besides that, the protagonist is lying in his own blood while looking totally exhausted from the massive strain on his core. In other words, the witch wonders if this is actually Kiviation and starts to reflect on his past life as a warrior. Recalling his old days as the heavenly demon, she remembers how he was always reckless and started fires everywhere. And still she thinks it might be better if he just died right now because his nature could bring a great catastrophe later. Transitioning to a memory, the Reaper explains he is a legendary being who rivals 52 rulers in the demon world. Lastly, Yuri looks at him and asks if he is really just 53rd in the rankings of that mysterious dark place. Yuri smiles while blood drips down his face and admits that his opponent is actually not a small fry after all. And besides that, he immediately charges forward with a massive speed boost that leaves a trail of red energy on the floor. But one of the guards manages to land a heavy blow while our hero feels the impact of the attack against his body. And so another enemy swings a giant spiked ball at him, because they are trying to crush our boy with everything they have. Nevertheless, our hero counters with a powerful knee strike and hits his opponent directly in the face with no mercy. Also, several guards keep charging in, because they think that our boy will eventually get worn out from all the fighting. Then a man with a sword tries to slash him while our hero remains focused on staying alive in this chaotic building. Even if his body is not in perfect condition, our hero refuses to back down and keeps moving against the enemy group. Thus he delivers a brutal punch to another trashy guard because he wants to clear the way to the big boss. Moving his foot with speed, our boy dashes toward the next target while his dark aura keeps growing stronger every second. And so, though there are just too many of them, our protagonist realizes he made a mistake by not listening to the witch's advice. And so he continues to strike down every guard in his path. While feeling the pressure of the numbers game they are playing, and feeling totally exhausted, Yuri stops to catch his breath and tells the leader to act like a boss and fight him alone. but the guild master just laughs and tells his men to keep attacking because he can see our boy is almost finished, and because of that a new wave of soldiers rushes forward with their weapons ready to finish off our tired protagonist. Despite the pain, our hero prepares his fourth move of the divine art while red energy explodes all around his body. While blood pours from his eyes, our boy starts to worry since his vision is getting blurry during this intense battle. So also he realizes that his old internal injuries are still acting up because of the intense battle he had before this. Suddenly everyone gets pushed back when a massive wall of ice appears and blocks the entire hallway in a split second. Finally the ice witch shows up and scolds Nayuram for not waiting for her while he tries to explain the circumstances. Floating in the air, Yuri scolds our boy and blasts several guards away with her massive ice power in one go. And besides that, she looks quite serious and tells the protagonist to deal with those weaklings before they can talk more. Walking through the carnage, Nayuram says he finally recovered some power after using his secret absorption technique, and so thus our hero launches another attack and mentions that he was already planning to finish the job without any help. Meanwhile the ice witch creates a huge magical circle to keep everyone under control while showing her beautiful blue aura, and so the two legends continue their fierce battle against dozens of guards while filling the building with energy. Because he is far stronger, our protagonist sends one guard flying with a single hit that looks incredibly powerful too. Standing alone among his fallen men, the silver-haired leader looks around and realizes that his guards were useless. Then our hero walks up to him and mocks the man by calling him the little boss since everyone else is gone. And so furious by the insult, the guild master thinks to himself that things would be different if that woman hadn't appeared. Deciding to end his grand cause, he summons a giant fire demon that towers over everyone in a terrifying way. Now, looking at the huge monster, our girl realizes that this man is actually more dangerous than they initially thought before. Shouting with madness, the boss says he won't die alone and prepares to use a special destruction god flame move, but now Nayuram just smirks because he knows a self-detonation technique is coming and he won't let it happen easily. Using the third form of his divine arts, the boy hits the enemy with a dragon pulse palm to stop the blast. Gagging from the massive impact, the silver-haired man feels his ribs cracking as he is pushed against the wall. Approaching the defeated boss, the witch tells our hero to finish the job quickly so they can finally go home. Also, he realizes that these dangerous people already know their home address, so they must take serious action now. Therefore our hero grabs the man by his head and says he will destroy his meridians to stop him from fighting. And so finally the leader becomes nothing more than a weak civilian who can never think of taking revenge against them again. And just like that, the dangerous organization known as Hunter Hall was finally wiped out after that crazy battle. And since the threat disappeared, our hero and Yuri walk together while enjoying the calm after the storm, and our peaceful daily lives finally returned as students went back to their normal classroom routines. And showing off his phone to a friend, the boy brags about meeting the famous celebrity in person. And so because things should be quiet for a while, Yuri focuses on her studies while sitting at her school desk. Talking comfortably with his classmates really makes the protagonist realize how important a peaceful life is. Anyway, the friend asks why everyone is suddenly going to Japan for the big school trip this year. Realizing it will be his first overseas visit in this life, our hero gets very excited for the journey. And so, arriving at the Incheon airport, the group prepares to board the plane for their international flight. And so, sitting inside the airplane, our hero and his sister wait for the crew to make the trip comfortable. Eventually they arrive in Japan, specifically in the city of Osaka, and see the beautiful traditional architecture. Exploring the area is more fun than expected, and they look at maps to find the next spot. Taking photos at a famous spot, our boy wears a funny hat while Yuri looks totally unimpressed. Ordering 2 takoyaki at a street stand, the group enjoys the local snacks during their school outing. Surprised by his language skills, the friend praises the boy, but our hero used the witch's translation spell, and suddenly the friend needs to go to the restroom real quick and asks for help finding it. Providing clear directions, Yuri tells him to turn at the corner and go straight to find the place. Looking up at the clear blue sky, the atmosphere feels perfect for a day of sightseeing and relaxation. Standing tall near the stairs is a traditional wooden gate leading into a very quiet and peaceful shrine. However, a mysterious black car pulls up to the entrance and someone important is arriving at the location. A mysterious man in a suit arrives at a quiet place and he gets welcomed by an old man waiting for him. And then the old monk tells him to come inside because they have something very important to discuss right now. And while walking through the traditional room, the suited man looks focused since the atmosphere feels serious. And so besides that, the old man shows him a paper and says he has all the information on the target for this mission. Also, he asks the man to eliminate them discreetly so they can visit a certain assemblyman once the job is done. Thus we see a ninja kneeling before the boss, who simply says that he was expecting the warrior to arrive. Furthermore, the leader asks if the mission is clear and orders the man to handle it flawlessly today. Because he is a professional, the masked warrior looks ready and prepares to execute the orders without any delay. In a split second the ninja disappears from sight after saying he understood everything the boss requested. Meanwhile our hero Nayuram is walking through the city but he realizes that something is going very wrong. At that moment our boy mentions he is lost and wonders where exactly he ended up this time around. Suddenly he stops because he senses a murderous aura coming from somewhere nearby and it makes him stay alert. Still feeling confused our hero looks at the buildings while trying to find the correct path to his destination. And while walking through the empty corridors he remains cautious since the whole place feels abandoned. And also looking up at the sky he notices that the energy around here changed and he decides he needs to check it. Thus our boy gets into a serious pose and prepares himself to face whatever is hiding in the shadows ahead. And suddenly we see a man lying on the floor after being attacked while a ninja stands over him with a bloody sword. And so because the dirty work is finished the masked warrior mentions that the target has been eliminated successfully. And he starts to clean the blood off his weapon while planning to erase every single trace and disappear forever. Lastly the ninja turns around and says he will be going now since his part of the contract is finally complete. And suddenly our hero enters the scene while the mysterious ninja looks back and feels very surprised by the sudden arrival. And stepping firmly into the room the red shoes of our protagonist make a sound that catches the attention of everyone there. Looking around with a serious face Naoram wonders what exactly is going on in this place while he stares at the situation. Behind him the masked assassin stands over a victim while blood spreads across the white tiles of the silent room. Meanwhile outside the school bus is ready to go and the teacher tells the children to gather up for the trip. And so looking for his friend Dong, Ju wonders if something happened to Nayuram since he did not show up yet for the departure. And so nevertheless the teacher tells him to get on the bus quickly so they can finally leave for their destination in Japan. So back in the building the ninja points his sword and asks who the hell Nayuram is and who sent him to this floor. Responding very calmly our boy says he is just a kind passerby and wonders why the assassin killed the man on the floor. And so without saying another word the ninja makes a move while his foot slides across the ground to start a deadly attack. Lunging forward with a sharp blade the masked man tries to erase the witness by dealing a lethal strike to our boy. But our hero is faster and avoids the edge of the sword while moving his body with incredible grace and agility. Seizing the opportunity Nayuram delivers a powerful counter that hits the ninja hard and makes him groan in pain. Thus a massive cloud of dust and debris fills the air after the impact of the strike shakes the entire hallway. Standing over his opponent our boy asks if he feels like talking now while showing a very confident expression. Groaning on the floor the ninja feels his body failing after taking such a heavy blow from the strange student. Suddenly the assassin throws several sharp weapons and screams for our protagonist to die right now in that spot. Seeing the projectiles coming his way the hero looks shocked and stays alert to avoid the dangerous metal stars. Moving like a ghost Nayuram dodges the attack with ease while the weapons fly past his head without touching him. Glaring at his target the ninja realizes he is dealing with someone very strong and hides his eyes behind the mask. The masked ninja shouts that he doesn't have any time to waste playing around while he tries to escape the area quickly. But our hero easily dodges the blade and mocks the guy because that kind of obvious attack will never work on him. And besides that the assassin realizes he is outmatched and uses his agility to jump away while his feet tap on the floor. And just like that he leaps through a window to get away because he thinks he can lose our protagonist in the big city. Looking totally relaxed Nayuram comments that at least the guy knows when he is beaten since he decided to run so fast. Then our hero kicks the ground and prepares to follow his target because he won't let a criminal get away that easily. Meanwhile the ninja is jumping between the rooftops of the city while trying to reach a safe place to hide from the boy. Also he uses his phone to call his allies and says he will lure the student to the nearest base to set a deadly trap. After a long chase our hero arrives at a massive traditional building and notices that the movement arts are good. Standing on a rock now Ram scratches his face while deciding to keep going in the same direction where the ninja vanished. While entering the temple grounds our protagonist hopes the witch covered for him at school because he needs to focus now. Anyway the whole place looks very mysterious with those strange statues and quiet atmosphere that feels like a warning. And looking around the empty courtyard our hero notices that it is strangely quiet for a location that should be full of life. And suddenly he looks up toward the sky and tells the hidden enemies to just come on out already because he knows they are there. And as expected dozens of ninjas appear on the rooftops because stealth techniques definitely don't work on our hero. And suddenly we see the traditional sandals of a new mysterious figure walking slowly toward the center of the big courtyard. Because he thinks our boy is just a clueless rookie the man in the blue kimono orders his men to take the student down. Thus all the ninjas leap from the roofs at once while shouting a loud battle cry to start the massive fight together. And seeing the army approaching our hero asks if they really want to talk with their fists since he is ready for anything. Finally Nayuram tells them to just come at him while he shows a very determined look and prepares to destroy them all. Nayuram stands firm while dodging several sharp strikes that fly past his body with incredible speed. And the two red masked assassins prepare a coordinated attack while focusing their deadly intent on our boy. But our boy ignites his red aura and mentions that this fight is actually going to be fun for him. Meanwhile, the sun shines over a massive white building where everything seems peaceful from the outside world. Because our protagonist is still missing, Yuri wonders where he went and asks her companion about his location. Also, she notices that the mysterious bloodline ring on her finger is glowing with a strange light right now, and thus Dongju sees the witch heading toward a door and asks if our hero is finally on his way back. But she simply says he is nearby and vanishes using a very powerful teleportation spell in a single moment. And so even though she wanted things to stay quiet, she worries that something bad happened again in this life. And suddenly a sharp metal weapon on a long chain flies through the air to catch our hero off guard once more, and the cold metal chains wrap around Nayuram's arm while he remains completely calm in the face of danger. However, more masked enemies jump down from above because they want to finish the job as fast as possible. And so, watching the scene with a cold gaze, the enemy leader says the spirit was impressive, but this is the end. And so but our hero clenches his fist and breaks the heavy links with pure physical strength and his red energy. Then the protagonist launches himself toward the sky to avoid the group attack coming from all sides at once. And so, besides that, the red masked killers are surprised by his speed while they try to maintain their combat formation. Therefore, the boss orders his men not to stop and tells them to keep attacking our boy without any mercy. Also, two assassins pull a chain between them trying to trap the boy again while he is still moving fast. Unexpectedly, Nayuram slips under the trap and hits his opponents with a very powerful move while the chain breaks, and consequently the silver-haired leader is totally shocked that he escaped the combo so easily while looking annoyed. Yuri scolds Nayuram for not waiting and asks if her words don't make sense to him anymore while she stays very calm. Because he is impatient, our hero struggles against the guards, but his sister reminds him to do things properly next time. And even though he is strong, the internal injuries from the battle against the death god are still causing him a lot of pain. And besides that, blood starts pouring from his eyes as he strains his body to maintain his martial energy during the fight. Realizing he is in a bad spot, our protagonist knows he must get out of this situation before his condition gets even worse. And suddenly an enemy with a spiked ball attacks him while our boy tries to avoid the blow despite his heavy injuries. But our hero manages to deliver a powerful kick to the guard's face and sends him flying across the white hallway. And so, meanwhile, the other members of the group keep charging in and shouting that they won't let him escape the building today. Dashing with speed, our boy puts on a black cap to hide his identity while he rushes through the corridors of the headquarters. Reaching a door, our hero stops for a moment to check his surroundings and make sure no one is following him closely. As expected, he finds a surveillance room and checks the monitors to locate the exact meeting place of the executives. And thinking about Kim Moojin's info, Nayuram looks for the agent floor conference hall where the big bosses are gathered. Soon he finds the camera feed and sees a mysterious group sitting around a large table planning something very suspicious. And so, looking at the whole room, he spots all his targets at once and prepares to crash the meeting to finish the mission. And so, however, two guards find him inside the room and yell at the student because he is definitely not supposed to be there. Sweating with annoyance, our boy realizes that being found is bad because the witch will surely chew him out later tonight. Knowing talking is over, our protagonist lunges forward to knock out the guards before they can call for more backup. With a single punch, he hits the enemy hard and makes them regret ever trying to stop the heavenly demon's reincarnation. Standing over the fallen man, our boy smiles and tells the guards to stay down for a while so he can finish his work. Finally, Nayuram shows a cold smirk because he is about to face the real boss and show him who truly rules the sky. A giant man appears right behind Yuri and warns her that not just anyone can enter this sacred place. And so then the massive warrior gets ready to punch because he wants to execute the intruder immediately. And however, the ice witch realizes she made a huge mistake because she let her guard down way too much during the talk, and thus the heavy fist of the giant lands a powerful blow that sends Yuri flying back while the air explodes from the force. And also a massive shockwave hits the corridor of the shrine, making everything shake while dust rises everywhere. Recovering from the impact, the girl looks pretty beaten up while bits of ice start to form around her body, but she wipes the blood from her mouth and calls him a miserable bastard for attacking a lady from behind. And furthermore, she holds a tiny crystal in her hand while promising that he will pay a very high price for touching her, because she is truly furious. Yurman's giant ice shards to crush her enemy and make him pay for his actions. Small pieces of sharp ice fly through the air while the witch prepares to release her full magical power. Standing tall with a cold aura, she says she won't let him off for ruining her school trip with this nonsense. Suddenly the giant man gets completely frozen inside a massive block of blue ice while he tries to defend himself, but Yuri gets surprised when she notices the man is actually moving inside his frozen prison with pure strength. Also, she wonders if he is really trying to shatter her powerful spell just to break free and fight again. Therefore, huge cracks start to appear on the surface of the ice as the monster inside pushes with all his might. Breaking the spell with a roar, the man screams that he will eliminate the intruder no matter what happens next. and snapping her fingers Yuri admits that he is more persistent than she expected while she prepares another move. Thus dozens of sharp ice projectiles surround the enemy and wait for the witch's command to strike him down. Also she calls upon the ice infused with mana so she can finally restrain the persistent monster once more. Finally another massive frozen block traps the enemy cause Yuri wants to end this battle once and for all. Yuri glares with her glowing blue eyes and orders the enemy to stay exactly where he is without moving, and then she gathers mana in her hand and promises to finish him off properly this time with her magic. Activating her frozen impact skill the witch prepares a massive blast to crush the giant warrior, and she fires a huge beam of pure cold energy that fills the whole courtyard with a bright light. Because of the attack the intruder gets trapped in a mountain of ice while looking totally frozen. However the ice structure suddenly shatters into pieces as the monster inside refuses to stay down, and so wiping blood from her lip our girl believes that the previous blow should have taken care of the problem. Besides a massive cloud of dust rises from the ground while the battle atmosphere stays very tense. Suddenly a pair of terrifying red eyes shine through the smoke showing that the enemy is still standing. And surprised that he took the hit head on she realizes the man is actually fine and ready for more. Screaming that every intruder must die the giant launches another charge with his glowing red eyes. Thus the massive warrior runs with incredible speed while the wind swirls around his heavy body. And even though she thinks he is an idiot Yuri admits his body is tough and hard to break. Lunging forward the man tries to catch the witch while his physical power makes the ground shake. But she moves gracefully through the air and says those crude attacks won't work on her anymore. Looking up with rage the giant sees his flying target and declares she must be eliminated right now. Pushing off the ground with strength he prepares to jump toward the sky to reach our floating hero, and so the intruder leaps into the air with his hand reaching out to grab the powerful ice witch. Telling him to shut up and stop whining she prepares her icicle spear move with a magic circle, and finally she sends a rain of sharp ice shards down on him and tells the monster to die. The giant man screams while trying to block the freezing magic but his physical strength is reaching its limit, and so besides that Yuri glares with her bright blue eyes as she decides to see how much longer he can actually last, so she creates a massive pillar of ice that rises into the sky to overwhelm the intruder with pure magical power. But she gets really curious about what kind of body he has because he can endure such a cold and heavy attack, and thus the pressure increases while the cold winds swirl around the battlefield making every move harder for the enemy. Also she whispers command to freeze as more mana flows from her fingertips to finish the job once and for all. Because she is a true master she stops his huge punch with just one finger while her ice energy spreads instantly. Then the witch calls him a persistent bastard and launches a new set of ice spears to finally pin him down. Meanwhile the intruder tries to knock her down while yelling with rage because he refuses to accept his defeat. Still the high spear technique strikes from above and the massive warrior struggles to survive the cold assault. Furthermore the giant man charges like a beast because he is determined to eliminate every single intruder today. However the monster inside him keeps shouting and his red eyes glow while he tries to break free from the trap, and Yuri admits his body is tough but she claims he cannot withstand the chill that freezes from the inside out, and so besides she explains how the tiny shards entered his skin to start the freezing process through his own bloodline. Therefore it is the perfect spell for thick-skinned guys like him since he cannot run away from his own body. And finally she pulls back while letting the ice take over the whole area so she can definitely finish this annoying mess. Suddenly a massive red explosion hits the ground and creates a huge cloud of dust that covers the entire shrine. Then the mysterious leader in the blue kimono shows his sword skills and mentions that he is not rusty at all. Also his purple eyes look very sharp while he observes the situation and prepares for the final stage of the duel. Lastly our hero Naram stands tall and says he trained like crazy while red energy surrounds his fist once again. The boss in blue attacks with a purple blade claiming that the power shown so far won't even scratch his body. And then our hero looks back with a very serious gaze while preparing to unleash his true potential in this fight. And so because of their speed the exchange of blows creates bright flashes of light that fill the entire traditional courtyard. But the leader swings his sharp weapon with grace trying to find an opening in our boy's nearly perfect defense. Looking quite impressed he asks if this is seriously all the legendary warrior has to offer during their duel. However our hero thinks it is disappointing and charges his fist with a dark red aura to strike back hard. Thus a massive explosion occurs as the protagonist lands a direct hit while red energy swirls around the enemy. And besides that the boss mocks him and tells him to save that talk for when he can actually land a real hit. Suddenly the master's eyes wide open in shock when he realizes that something is very wrong with the situation, and blood starts to drip from his mouth because the internal damage was much more severe than he first imagined. seizing the moment our protagonist prepares to teach the man how to throw a proper punch with his divine art. Still, the ninja leader moves with agility, trying to dodge the incoming strike that carries a terrifying pressure. And so also he notes that if it had been a direct hit, the battle could have ended in one single blow right there. And so looking at the red drops on the floor, he realizes that he was sure he had dodged that previous lethal attack. And so if he had realized the danger even a little later, the boss knows he would have taken a fatal hit for sure. Smirking through the blood, he admits that only at this level can he acknowledge the boy as someone he respected. Moving his feet with a strange and ancient footwork, he prepares to use a secret technique from his past life. And our hero Nayuram notices that special movement while wondering what kind of trick is coming his way now. Suddenly the boss performs the blood shadow steps, creating several afterimages that confuse the vision of everyone nearby. Because he is moving so fast, the leader looks like a blurry specter while he tries to corner our protagonist again. The boss in blue moves like a ghost and uses his speed to surround our protagonist in a split second, but our hero stays perfectly still because he is watching every single move of his opponent right now. While staring at the enemy, our boy thinks to himself that this crazy battle really brings back old times. Suddenly he puts all his red energy into his fist and gets ready to launch a punch that nobody expects, and so dodging the purple blade easily, he shows that those weak attacks won't be enough to hurt him anymore. In a flash, he manages to grab the enemy's arm while the power of the sword starts to disappear fast. But the boss doesn't stop and tries to hit our hero from another side while they both keep moving. Looking at the guy's face, the protagonist thinks that this fight might actually be fun for him today. Using his secret skills, our boy hits a punch that doesn't even care about defense during the hard impact. Still, the leader looks totally shocked because he never expected to face such a monster in this place. And besides that, he understands that a killing strike is coming and his own life is in big trouble now. Thus our hero prepares his best move and charges a ton of red energy in his right hand again. Activating the third form of his art, he uses a special move to blast his opponent backward very fast. The boss gets hit by the full force of the attack and looks surprised by the boy's incredible power, and so gritting his teeth with anger, the leader is unable to accept that he is losing to a kid once again. Desperate to survive, he grabs his sword tightly and prepares one last move to save himself right now. And so screaming that it is not over yet, he swings his weapon with blue light while trying to cut our hero. Moving like a leaf in the wind, the protagonist dodges the blade and lets the energy pass by his head. Suddenly red drops fall to the floor because the fight is finally hurting their bodies a lot more. Looking defeated and bleeding, the boss says the boy was impressive and admits that the duel is over. Nayuram gives the guy some credit because he really doesn't know when to quit his stubborn attacks. And then the blue-clad assassin rushes forward with a sharp dagger to try one last desperate move against our boy. Because of the previous strike, his robe is covered in blood and deep slashes, showing he is already near his limit. Thus the warrior falls to his knees while bleeding from his mouth after being completely overwhelmed by Nayuram. Looking quite serious, our boy mentions that the man just lost his very last chance to walk away alive. While standing defeated, the assassin prepares his ultimate Chinen strike as a final act of defiance against his rival. And suddenly we see a flashback of Chiang Axel, who was known as the greatest assassin of the Killing Pavilion long ago. After failing his 10th assassination attempt, the warrior chose to end his own life rather than face the shame. And so but our hero stopped him right there because he saw something special in the eyes of that determined fighter, and he granted him one more chance to serve him while still allowing him to try and kill him anytime. And so, leaving his blade on the floor, the man had to make a choice that would change his fate forever. Consequently, Chiang Axel swore absolute loyalty to his new master while bowing down to the red sunset sky. Also, he proved his loyalty again and again by destroying the entire Killing Pavilion on the Lord's orders. Besides that, the heavenly demon sat on his golden throne and taught the man the legendary blood shadow footwork. And so thus the greatest assassin of that era mastered the supreme movement art and earned many merits for the cult. And now the final chance given by our hero has finally come to an end in this modern world. Walking away, Nayuram leaves the kneeling warrior behind while the quiet temple grounds surround them both. Looking back, he asks what Chiang Axel will choose to do now after meeting his master once again. Without any hesitation, the man offers his life to his lord while blood stains his dark blue traditional clothes. So finally our protagonist looks at the shrine while knowing he has regained a powerful and loyal ally for the future. Nayuram accepts the loyalty and tells Chiang Axel to stay by his side until his life finally burns out. Hearing those words, the assassin feels a deep sincerity he never experienced once in his previous life, and so crouching on the ground he finally hears the truth while the wind blows leaves around our hero. Looking up at the sky, our protagonist breathes out and says he feels much lighter than ever before. Turning around, Nayuram asks if the man is the true boss of this place while staying very curious. Denying that claim, Chiang Axel explains that even top awakeners cannot overcome the barrier of true strength. Revealing his origins, he mentions that he was once the powerful king of the 72 Green Forest strongholds. Besides that, he is the legendary warrior who truly leads the mysterious organization called Ghost Sword. Surprised by the name, Yuri wonders if Wejuk Qian reincarnated too and asks where that man is currently, and pointing toward the distance, Cheong Axel says the main base for Ghost Sword is actually not far from here. Ordering the man to guide him, our boy wants to crush them immediately, but his ally warns it is a bad idea. Glancing back with a cold stare, our hero asks Cheong Axel if he is trying to mock him right now. Bowing respectfully, the assassin says he is just stating facts and would never dare to disrespect his lord. The guy in blue reveals he's the former king of the 72 fortresses of the Green Forest, and he's also the true leader of the powerful organization known as the Phantom Sword. This makes the protagonist wonder if a guy named Wejuk Qian has also been reincarnated. The man in blue then informs them that the Phantom Sword's main base isn't far from there, and so, our hero decides to go there and take them down right away, but his servant stops him. The young man gets annoyed and asks if Cheong Axel is messing with him, but the black-haired servant denies it, saying he would never do that and is simply telling the truth. He explains that many reincarnated individuals arrived on Earth long before his master showed up. Over time, these guys spread across the world, creating factions and secretly growing their power, and the servant then admits that if the protagonist hadn't shown up, he would have never left the Phantom Sword. Even knowing his master's strength, he warns that attacking alone right now would be very dangerous. The man in blue insists they need to get much stronger before doing anything. He stresses that attacking the Phantom Sword now would be a reckless and very risky move. Hearing all of this, our hero just lets out a weary sigh at the situation. Then he stretches and comments that his servant is as cautious as ever. Just then a voice shouts the protagonist's name, Naoram, leaving him quite surprised. A girl with white hair runs towards them and asks what he's doing there, and the young woman seems annoyed and complains that she just wanted a peaceful life, away from trouble. The young man apologizes, and his curious servant asks if he knows the woman. He replies that she's a very dear friend, but the girl gets irritated and tells them both to be quiet. The white-haired girl takes the young man's hand and says she doesn't care about the mess because they're going home, and so, she throws a ring on the ground and tells him to get changed first as they're heading back to their quarters. And so with that, the ring creates a blue energy portal, and the young woman prepares to use her ice powers. Then she announces she still needs to take care of one last thing and concentrates her magic in her hand. Suddenly, the young woman completely freezes the protagonist's servant, leaving him stunned. The hero is outraged and asks why she did that to his former comrade, in arms. The girl tells him to be quiet and says she only froze the guy because they seemed close. The young man just grumbles about his friend's difficult temper as he looks at his frozen servant, and so with nothing else to do, he decides to enter the portal with her to get out of there. The two are then transported to another location, leaving the man in blue behind. Elsewhere, a man is informed that Cheong Axel has betrayed the Phantom Sword organization. The bald man doubts it, but the messenger confirms that as hard as it is to believe, it's the truth, and he goes on to explain that the traitor's new master is someone his lord knows very well. The organization's leader listens intently as the informant continues his report, and he then reveals that witnesses said the new master is identical to the heavenly demon. Elsewhere, we see a man with red eyes annoyed with a bandit who is bothering him. An old man, engulfed in flames, pleads to be spared, promising to never appear before him again. But the red-eyed man calls him an insect and completely overwhelms him with his power. Back with the bald man, he finally believes the news and realizes the heavenly demon has returned. With a wicked smile on his face, he declares that the time for his revenge has finally come. And so the organization's leader announces with a serious look that they will march as soon as the preparations are complete. After the school trip ended, the family's daily life went back to normal. With that, in the underground training room, Yuri practices her ice powers with great intensity, and she realizes from the last battle that she clearly needs to become stronger for whatever comes next. And so, the girl then thinks of an opponent from the past and says her current mana level wouldn't even come close, and the sorceress decides she must regain the power she had as an absolute being in her previous life, and to do that, she needs to create the powerful and legendary ice heart once again, and the young woman then begins to condense her cold energy to the extreme to form the artifact's base, and so she reflects that it would normally take over 300 years to complete the heart, but now she doesn't have that luxury, and her energy gathers in front of her as the great power of ice begins to take shape. The girl knows she needs to shorten the time somehow to prepare as quickly as possible. That's why in this life, she decides to create the ice heart using a completely new method. The young woman then casts a complex spell that looks like a clock to speed up the process. With the ice heart finally materializes before her, shining brightly, she then reveals her plan, saying she will split the artifact into 30 different pieces. In this way, she will infuse each piece with mana individually and let them grow to shorten the time. And with the small crystals floating, the preparation for her new power is finally complete. complete. Yuri believes that if she continues to infuse mana, she can reach a considerable level in just 1 year. Suddenly a shadowy figure appears and asks if she is finally creating an ice heart, and so is the Reaper, who seems impressed and says that with this formula, she will finish the process quickly. And so floating among the crystals, he then asks how much stronger the witch is planning to become. The scene changes to a lush forest where the protagonist trains alone in peace. With that, a dark red aura surrounds the boy as he reflects on his current situation. He agrees that Cheung-ak-sal was right, and with his current power, he can't rebuild the cult. And so, the young man thinks he won't even be able to protect the people around him and that he needs more strength. With a determined look, he decides he must regain the power he had in his past life. But the problem is his internal energy, and he needs to find a way to increase it quickly. And the scene then shifts to Yuri's underground training room, where he prepares to meditate. The boy meditates and realizes that even if he increases his energy, his current body can't handle it. To solve this, he needs to operate his 2 energy centers at the same time to strengthen himself. The boy thinks that so far he has used methods from his past life, but now he needs to adapt to this new body. He focuses on his upper energy center, which formed at the top of his head in this new life, and then on the middle energy center, operating both simultaneously for the training. The boy plans to use this technique to amplify his internal energy and get stronger. With that, a huge blast of red energy occurs as he tries the new method, but the boy gets annoyed as he realizes something went wrong during the cultivation process. The internal energy he condensed in one place begins to tremble in an unstable and dangerous way. The young man then fails, and all the energy he gathered with so much effort ends up dispersing. Even so, he clenches his fist and thinks that there's no time to be disappointed by failure. With a serious look, he decides he needs to take a deep breath and keep trying until he succeeds. The protagonist then closes his eyes and focuses again to try the method one more time. He then thinks that he failed, but he already expected it wouldn't be easy to achieve on the first try. The boy says it's okay and that if he fails, he will keep trying until he gets what he wants. With a determined look, he fills himself with confidence and prepares to try the method once more. Due to the continuous operation of his energy centers, the boy's body begins to burn intensely, sweating profusely. He then wonders if this is a sign that his body is being overloaded. Suddenly, his upper energy center begins to glow with a very strong red light. At that moment, his middle energy center also glows brightly, showing the power he is accumulating. The 2 energy centers start to run wild, and he knows he can't stop now. The young man cries out in pain as his internal energy begins to reverse in a dangerous and uncontrolled way. And so with a panicked look, he realizes that if this continues, things are going to get really bad for him. Suddenly, a voice tells him to focus, and he feels the reverse flow of his energy stop. He recognizes the cold energy surrounding him and wonders if it could be who he is thinking of. And so with that, Yuri appears and warns him that if he stops now, they will both suffer from the mana reversal. The girl says she will help him control his mana, and that he just needs to continue what he was doing. With the unexpected help, the boy focuses again with a determined look on his face. He then decides to trust the witch and focuses completely on his training so he won't fail again. The sorceress's cold energy envelopes his wild energy, and the two begin to harmonize, and so the protagonist feels as if he is falling into a deep trance with the union of their powers. With his eyes glowing, he begins to see a new realm, and operating the 2 energy centers becomes easy. And so, he completes his rebirth and gains a new body, once again rising to the rank of the strongest. The boy steps firmly on the ground, feeling his new power flow throughout his strengthened body. With that, he has finally reached a new realm in this life as well, feeling much stronger than before, and his internal energy rose from 180 to 420 years of accumulated power. Now he can use his energy to the fullest, but he still needs some time to adapt completely. At that moment his sister calls his name, looking very tired after helping in the process. The girl says she's fine, but her pale appearance shows she used up a lot of energy, and so then the young woman faints and falls to the ground, and the boy rushes to help her, calling her name in concern. And the scene then changes to a different place, showing the feet of a mysterious monk who has just arrived. At the airport, a bald monk arrives with his men and discovers the location of the heavenly demon. The monk listens to the report with a serious expression and seems to be planning his next move carefully. He then orders his troops to be on standby and move secretly so the target doesn't escape. And so the man says that now that Hunter Hall has been taken down, they will capture the heavenly demon in Korea. And the scene changes to Yuri's room, where she is resting after the great effort she made earlier. With that, the boy enters the room and brings a glass of water to his sister, who is lying in bed. And so but the girl complains that the water is cold and tells him to get a new one with a grumpy look on her face. And so furthermore, she says that since he's going back, he should bring tea instead of water, making him annoyed. And so, the young woman points with her finger, showing the ring she still wears on her hand after everything that happened, and the sorceress then asks if he finds this annoying and reminds him that he was almost in big trouble. And so the young man gives a forced smile and thanks her for saving him, thinking that he just has to endure it. With a fake smile, he turns and says he will make some warm tea for her as a thank you. The bedroom door closes, and Yuri is left alone with her thoughts as she reads a book in bed. With a mischievous smile, she thinks that pretending to be sick for a while might not be so bad. Meanwhile, the boy clenches his fist tightly and thinks that he can't keep living like this. He then squeezes harder, showing all his determination to change the current situation once and for all. So, the young man then opens his hand and reflects on what he needs to do to turn the tables on his sister. With a serious look, he decides that he first needs to take action to resolve things between them. And so, he resolves to help the witch recover so she can no longer hold anything over him. And so the boy prepares a special drink and is proud of the result, which seems to have turned out very well. He used a secret elixir recipe he took from the Shaolin Temple in his past life for the drink. Combining the recipe with modern medicine, he created a special tonic to speed up her recovery. With the drink ready and a confident smile, the boy prepares to take the tonic to his sister. The protagonist then walks toward her room with the tray in his hands, ready for the delivery. The girl complains about the delay and asks how long it takes to prepare a simple cup of tea. The young man approaches with a strange smile on his face, making his sister a little suspicious. The sorceress stares at him and asks what the reason is for that scary look he's giving her, and he then places the bowl with the special drink on her bedside table with an air of mystery. The young woman asks what that is, and he replies that it's not an ordinary tea, surprising her with the answer. With a proud smile, the boy reveals that it's a special tonic from the Heavenly Demon brand. The girl is a bit hesitant but accepts the drink and thanks him, saying she will have the tonic. As soon as she drinks it, a spark of golden energy appears on her body, leaving her completely shocked. And so suddenly, the girl knocks over the tray and the special tonic her brother had prepared for her. The boy is shocked to see the bowl flying towards him with the drink he made with so much effort. And so, the special tonic scatters in the air before hitting the floor and being completely wasted. The young woman gets up and warns that there is an intruder nearby, putting the room on high alert. The protagonist realizes that if even the Reaper is having a hard time, the enemies are no pushovers, and so he then laments his special tonic, which ended up being spilled on the floor before it could be used. With that, his sister, already dressed for battle, hurries him, asking why he isn't coming. But the boy remains still, with his back to her, an aura of pure fury emanating from his body. With a deadly look, he turns and says he will take care of the intruders who dared to interrupt him, and the sorceress rushes him to the fight and even comments that the tea looked good, leaving him speechless. And the scene changes, and we see the blade of the Reaper's weapon glowing with a powerful, golden aura. And then the Reaper appears in his full form, ready to protect the house from any threat. On the roof of a nearby building, the monk and his men confirm that this is the right place, and so his subordinate says that the Reaper belongs to the witch and that seeing him guarding the area confirms everything. At that moment, a sharp ice projectile flies at high speed toward the invaders. The attack hits the monk's men head-on, who are caught by surprise by the ice magic. The monk's subordinate turns and asks who dares to attack them so suddenly and with such power. And so, the two siblings appear on the street, and the young woman asks what their purpose is there. The girl then looks at the Reaper, who is floating nearby with a serious expression, and she notices he has been hit by a sealing spell and concludes there is a mage among the enemies. And so suddenly, a group of people comes running to help in the battle against the home's invaders. The protagonist questions what's happening, and the girl explains she felt a bad energy and called them. The boy acknowledges the good work and is happy that Jin moved the protectors closer to the house. And so with that, one of the new allies recognizes the enemies and seems concerned about their presence there. And the ally warns the cult leader to be careful, as she recognizes the identity of the enemy on the roof. The bald monk is Wai Juk Qian, the general leader of the feared organization called the Phantom Sword. The protagonist then faces him and asks if he came all this way seeking revenge for something from the past. With a look of contempt, he reminds him that after begging for his life, he still isn't afraid. The monk is not intimidated and calls him Heavenly Demon, saying he still talks so boldly. The sorceress then unleashes her ice energy and says that whoever he is, he laid a hand on her Reaper, and so with a powerful blue aura, she swears he will pay dearly for messing with her servant. The enemy mage creates a purple barrier to defend against the powerful sorceress's ice attacks. The hooded man raises his hands and seems to control the barrier with some kind of special magic. The boy then says there really is a mage there, and his sister holds his hand to share power. With a confident smile, the monk asks what the rush is and says their barrier won't last, and so he then invites them to follow him if they want to fight, as it's still too early to reveal their identities. With that, the invaders enter a purple portal and disappear, leaving the heroes behind on the street. The allies discuss whether they should follow the enemies, and one of them says it's clearly a dangerous trap. And so, but the boy says Jin is right and that they wouldn't go to the trouble of inviting them if they could just take them down. With a determined look, the young woman says she knows it's a trap, but if they back down, they will just keep coming. And so, the group of heroes enters the purple portal to face the enemies in their dimension. The enemy leader addresses the Heavenly Demon with a confident smile on his monk's face. One of the protagonist's allies says he knew they wouldn't run from the battle that was to come. The monk says he can finally settle the score for his old grudge against the heavenly demon. With a look of fury, he swears that this time, he will make his proud head bow to the ground. And the scene then shifts to Yuri's training room, where the heroes gather after the battle. The blonde ally of the group seems to be wondering about something, with her hands on her hips, and so then she questions what they should do with the monk who is trapped in a block of ice. The black-haired ally suggests getting rid of him to leave no loose ends, and the monk despairs. The protagonist then strikes the frozen monk, and the villain cries out in pain from the surprise blow. With a wicked smile, he says he'll hear what he knows first, and then decide if he lives. And so, the boy questions him about the reason for the attack and warns him not to say any nonsense about revenge. The monk reveals that the Phantom Sword's goal was to take control of the entire world, and then he says that the next goal was to destroy or absorb the group of reincarnators from China. The protagonist is surprised and asks if there is an organization of reincarnators in China as well. The sorceress then approaches and asks about the total number of reincarnators and organizations in the world, and so with an intimidating look, she warns him not to try to be clever and to answer her question. And so, the monk says he doesn't know the exact numbers but that there are several groups of reincarnators out there. He reveals that there are large and small groups in places like the Middle East, Russia, and the United States. The scene then shows men in suits and sunglasses, representing the reincarnator groups from the West. The scene shows well-equipped Russian soldiers ready for any combat in the forest. The monk then says that's all he knows, and the group of heroes seems to reflect on the information. And so the scene changes to a meeting room where the group discusses what to do with the new information. The boy reflects that if the monk is telling the truth, the reincarnator groups are on the move. He concludes that their influence in the world will only grow over time as they seek domination. So with a serious look, the protagonist says that if they don't want to be crushed, they need the strength to stop them. And the sorceress then says that she wanted to live peacefully as an ordinary person if possible in this life. With her arms crossed, she continues, saying she wanted to live together with her family and enjoy the peace. But now she knows there are things that could threaten her new life, and she needs to be prepared. And so, with a determined look, the young woman says they need to prepare thoroughly for whatever comes next. And the young woman then decides to plan step by step and says the first thing to deal with is school. One of the blonde allies then raises his hand and seems to have an idea to solve their problem, and he suggests that the two of them use their specialties to win national competitions and graduate early. The blonde ally gets excited about the idea and says that with their skills, victory is guaranteed. And the sorceress then decides that the muscle head can enter the judo tournament, and she'll enter the math Olympiad. The protagonist gets annoyed with the nickname and asks if she's saying he isn't smart. The blonde ally tries to calm them both down and says he'll go ahead and register them for the competitions. And a few months later, we see the boy with a gold medal around his neck after winning the judo tournament. The girl also appears with 2 framed awards, showing her success in the math Olympiad. And the final scene shows the two being photographed by the press after their victories in the competitions. The siblings' parents feel proud and comment on how they grew up so fast, in the blink of an eye. The mother says she's happy but also a little worried that they are such exceptional children. So the father agrees and jokes that with their genes, children like that shouldn't be possible. And so, with a proud smile, he says that's why they should watch over them and make sure they live as they wish. The scene changes to the protagonist meditating in a training room with a white aura around him. He lets out a sigh of relief, feeling the energy flow through his body more steadily now. And so, the boy reflects that being in an environment where he can dedicate himself to training makes a big difference. His ally says he used to think he was just redoing his past life, but now it's different. The blonde ally comes running up and asks if everyone is warmed up to start some sparring practice. But the boy says no, and that today is his day to focus on his middle energy center for training. The girl suggests a spar that feels real, and he refuses again with a serious expression. She then says that works well for her, and seems to have an idea for the day's training. And so, with that, another girl with white hair approaches and says the two of them should fight together. The white-haired young woman says she needed some hand-to-hand combat training, and this is her chance. The blonde ally accepts the challenge with a mischievous smile and asks if it will be a real combat. The other girl agrees and says it will naturally be like a real combat, making her excited. The protagonist then comments that between the two as they are now, 9 out of 10 times, the witch would win. And so the battle begins with a powerful stomp on the ground, showing the fighter's strength and speed. And so the blonde ally leaps into the air with a confident smile, ready to attack her opponent with everything she's got. With her fist glowing with golden energy, she challenges him to withstand her attacks first before talking. And the sorceress uses the breath of the frozen spirits to freeze the ground and gain an advantage in the fight. With that, the blonde warrior charges forward with her fist glowing gold while the other slides on the ice. The white-haired young woman then uses her magic and creates an ice spike to attack her opponent. Her adversary is surprised by the speed speed and power of the ice attack coming toward her, and the fighter realizes her rival freezes the ground to create distance and uses the ice as part of her combo, and she then complements the mage's excellent attack as she dodges the ice projectiles with her power. Then the girl says the gift she received will be returned with full force to the sorceress. But with a powerful blow, she hurls the large piece of ice back at her opponent with speed. The other young woman is unfazed and creates an ice sword to defend against the surprise counterattack, and she blocks the projectile with ease and prepares to show more of her ice skills. And so with a cold and determined look, the sorceress focuses for the next step of the intense battle. And so, the boys watching comment that the warrior is using her head and has progressed a lot in the fight. The blonde combatant then leaps into the air and lands a powerful kick on one of her rival's ice crystals. The kick is charged with a golden energy that shows all her strength and martial skill. The blow shatters the sorceress's ice defenses and sends fragments flying in all directions. But the ice mage warns her opponent not to let her guard down, as the fight isn't over yet. The blonde warrior is completely shocked to be suddenly surrounded by several ice spikes, and she tries to defend herself, but the ice projectiles come at her with great speed and precision. The young woman is hit head-on by the attack and is thrown backward by the force of her rival's magic. The scene ends showing the trails of ice left on the ground by the powerful white-haired sorceress. The ice mage points her sword at her fallen opponent on the ground, showing her victory in the fight. The blonde warrior surrenders and says she lost because her internal energy was completely drained. The boys who were watching approach and praise them both, saying they were incredible in the battle. With a confident smile, the protagonist thinks that if he doesn't want to be left behind, he'll have to work hard. A few days later, at the siblings' house, someone arrives urgently shouting for the cult leader. The blonde ally runs into the room and shows a letter to the two who are relaxing on the couch. The boy takes the letter, confused, and asks what's happening so early in the morning at the house. And so he then opens the letter with curiosity to find out what is written on the mysterious paper. Upon reading the letter's contents, the protagonist is completely shocked by what he has just discovered. And so, with his eyes wide open, he can't believe what he is reading in the letter he received. Sitting on the couch, he reflects on what he just read, and his sister asks what it says. And so the letter is from one of his loyal subordinates from his past life with important news for him. He discovers that Qianho Wei is in China, gathering members of the heavenly demon cult there, and his blonde ally gets excited and asks if he will take them along on the trip to China. The boy starts thinking about the possibilities and what it means to join the cult members in China. With a wicked smile, he realizes that the cult's revival is finally within his reach. He then boasts about his ability and says that with the cult restored, no one will be a problem for them. And his sister then asks if he is going to China, and he confirms that his followers are waiting for him. The boy is surprised to learn that she isn't going, and she explains that she's not part of his cult. And so with that, he accepts her decision and decides that it will be him and his 3 allies who will go to China. And so, the blonde ally then gives the orders to the group and says they will depart for Beijing on the day of the invitation. With the plans set, the revival of the heavenly demon cult seems to be getting closer and closer. A few days later, the group arrives at Beijing's international airport in a luxurious private jet. The protagonist comments on how comfortable traveling by private jet is, and his ally brags about his competence. The boy then asks if the immigration procedures are different for jets, and his ally doesn't know. And so the scene then shifts to show the group walking through the airport after getting off the jet. And so, they all walk together with their luggage, ready for the mission that awaits them in China. Suddenly, the blonde ally stops and draws everyone's attention to something she spotted in the distance, and she points to a man holding a sign and tells the cult leader to look in that direction. The man in a suit and sunglasses holds a welcome sign for the heavenly demon. With a smile, the protagonist approaches and asks if he is Qianho Guai, his former subordinate. The man then joins his hands as a sign of respect and seems to remember his past life. In a flashback, he swears loyalty to his lord and says he would dedicate everything to him with honor. Back in the present, he confirms his identity and says it's an honor to see him again. The protagonist smiles and says that hearing those words brings back old memories from his past life, and so the subordinate then invites them to leave the airport and says he will escort them to their destination. And so, the group gets into a car and drives down the road toward the city of Beijing. In the car, the boy asks if they are going to meet the cult members immediately, and his ally answers. The protagonist smiles and says there's no rush and that they can relax for now on the trip. The scene ends with a road sign showing that they are on their way to a day of sightseeing. And so, the group takes the day to tour a large, traditional palace in China. Afterward, they gather for a meal at a round table, enjoying the local food together. After the meal, the subordinate leads them to a door and says they have finally arrived at their destination. With that, everyone is amazed as they enter a luxurious and very well prepared party room. And so the boy then throws himself into an armchair and says he hasn't had a drink in a while, asking the Mountain King to pour him one. But his blonde ally questions him about drinking as a minor, and he shouts that he is 978 years old. At that, his other companion says that in this life he is a minor and serves him a non-alcoholic drink they had prepared. The white-haired subordinate says he'll drink water because he has to drive, and the boy feels less lonely. And too bad, but the party starts, and everyone has a great time drinking and enjoying the moment. And so, the protagonist and his blonde companion sing enthusiastically at karaoke, letting loose at the party. Sometime later, most of the group has already passed out from drinking so much and are sprawled on the couch. And so, the subordinate comments on how much everyone drank, and the boy agrees, saying they are too weak. He then decides it's time to go to the lodging to sleep, and his ring begins to glow red. Next, the young man throws himself onto the bed in the room, stretching after a long and fun day. And so, his subordinate then comments that taking care of drunk people and getting them to their rooms is a lot of work. Lying down, the boy remembers this also happened in his past life when everyone got drunk. And so, the white-haired man confirms the memory and says the two of them were the only sober ones and cleaned everything up. And so with these memories, the young man falls asleep, thinking about rebuilding the cult and drinking with everyone again. And the subordinate then remains silent, watching his leader sleep peacefully on the bed in the room. He then wishes his leader a good night and turns off the lights so he can rest in peace. The night falls with a bright full moon in the sky, creating an atmosphere of tranquility and mystery. But suddenly the protagonist wakes up startled, his eyes wide, sensing a strange presence. And so, several masked and armed men invade the room, ready for a surprise, silent attack. And so, the boy then shouts to his subordinate that there are enemies in the room, and the two prepare to fight. One of the invaders leaps to attack, and the young man warns his ally to quickly protect himself with energy. With incredible reflexes, the hero blocks the attacker's strike with his bare hands, showing his skill, and his subordinate then grabs his sword, which was next to the bed, ready to join the battle as well. And with a swift and precise movement, he lands a critical blow on one of the invaders to protect his leader. The protagonist, now on his feet with a knife in hand, faces the other enemies advancing toward him. He then engages in hand-to-hand combat with another invader and masterfully blocks his attack with strength. And so, the subordinate then tells him to step back, as he himself will take care of the rest of the enemies in the room. But the boy leaps into the air with a dark red aura, preparing for a devastating attack. So with that, the last enemy defends against the blow with a large sword, proving to be stronger than the others. And so, the masked attacker seems to have been caught off guard by the strength of the young warrior's attack. The subordinate then attacks the last invader with his sword in a swift and precise strike to help. And so, all the enemies are defeated, and their bodies are left scattered across the floor of the dark room. The protagonist then says he no longer senses any hostile intent and tells his ally to put away his energy. He then wonders if these are the reincarnators from China and how they managed to find them there. With a serious look, he turns to his subordinate, seeming to have made an important decision. The boy gets a determined and furious look on his face, thinking about what he will do next after the surprise attack. Suddenly, the protagonist is struck by a sword and looks down, completely shocked by the attack. He then turns and sees it was his own subordinate who attacked him, asking what this is. With a wicked smile, the white-haired man confirms his identity and says the servant is here. And so, he asks for his orders, but the boy remains in shock and pain, not understanding the betrayal. The young man stands there with the sword in his body as his former ally stares at him from behind with a cold look. And so, coughing up blood, he then asks if the traitor was planning to betray him from the very beginning of their journey. The man then taunts him, saying the heavenly demon cult no longer exists in this new world. Angrily, the protagonist clenches his teeth upon hearing that the traitor has no intention of serving him in this life. The boy begins to lose his strength and falls to his knees on the floor, feeling the effect of the serious injury. The traitor is shocked and wonders how he is still moving after having his dantian pierced. With that, a red aura of pure fury envelopes the protagonist as he calls the traitor a scoundrel. He then coughs up more blood, feeling the intense pain of the attack and his former companion's betrayal. The young man brings a hand to the wound, feeling his energy draining rapidly from his weakened body, and so with a look of despair, he wonders what is happening to his body and his energy, and his consciousness begins to fade, and he wonders if his dantian collapsed from the blow. The traitor then reveals that the substance he put in the boy's drink is finally taking effect. He explains that the blow to the dantian activated the substance and boasts about preparing the trap as a precaution. The protagonist is horrified as he realizes the extent of his ex-subordinate's betrayal and plan, and the traitor then shouts for him to just go down already and prepares to deliver the final blow to his former master. And so, the young man loses consciousness and falls to the floor, defeated by his ex-ally's betrayal and trap. The protagonist wakes up in a dark, unknown place, still feeling the effects of the betrayal. He realizes he is in a warehouse with large fans and a cold, grim atmosphere, and his allies are also tied to chairs in the same location, looking equally helpless. With a look of pure fury, he decides he needs to finish the traitor right now, without hesitation. And so the traitor then boasts about his trap and says that even after everything, the boy still managed to move. And with a panicked look, he shouts that if they give the young man time, he might recover and counterattack. But a man in a suit forbids him from acting, saying it's someone else's order to keep him alive for now. The man reveals the order comes from someone higher up, and the traitor is surprised and frustrated by the decision. A third man then appears and says the heavenly demon's stanchion was pierced, and he can't recover. The blonde man smiles confidently and says he doesn't understand why the traitor is so eager to end it all. He then says they finally captured the heavenly demon and that they can't just finish him so easily. And the first man becomes enraged as he remembers the humiliation they suffered in their past lives because of him. The protagonist remains tied to the chair, his wounds still bleeding, listening to the enemy's plans. The man then shouts that the wretch must feel the price of looking down on others, and that he will suffer greatly. He then approaches and strikes the boy, who is defenseless in the chair, across the face. And with a hateful look, he says that before they finish him, they will first get rid of his subordinates in front of him. The man continues to strike him, saying he won't stop until he sees him broken and defeated. And with a cry of fury, he declares that he cannot erase his anger in any other way than with revenge. And so he continues to strike the protagonist, who is tied up and unable to defend himself from the attacks. Even injured and humiliated, the boy calls him a worm with a look of contempt and defiance on his face. With his hands tied and bleeding, the protagonist decides he needs to endure the pain and pretend to be unconscious. And the man in the suit then interrupts the discussion and says that's enough talk for now. And he then announces that the person they are waiting for will arrive soon and that they should prepare to receive them. The aggressor reluctantly agrees and steps away from the boy, who remains tied to the chair in the warehouse. And the captors retreat to a separate room, leaving the prisoners alone for a moment. The traitor then turns and casts one last look at the protagonist before leaving the area with the others. The group of captors then gathers in a room to await the arrival of the mysterious person they are expecting. And the scene shows an overhead view of the warehouse, with the prisoners tied up and spread across the floor. And suddenly, the protagonist opens his eyes and moves, showing that he was only pretending to be unconscious. He then realizes he can already move and prepares to act and try to save his allies and himself. The boy turns to see his allies, who are still tied up and unconscious in the chairs next to him. He then calls out to his two male allies, who remain unconscious, not responding to his call. With a worried look, the young man stares at his teammates, who are in a dangerous situation. He then looks at his blonde ally, who is also tied up and unconscious, looking very vulnerable. The protagonist feels guilty and thinks that he put his subordinates in danger by trusting them too much. With a determined look, he decides he needs to recover his stanchion quickly to save everyone. But he realizes his stanchion has completely collapsed and wonders if it's possible to recover it. With a cry of frustration, he coughs up blood and realizes it's impossible to recover that way. And the injury to his stanchion is too severe to be healed with just breathing and circulation techniques. And with a look of despair, he realizes there is no choice and that he must risk it all on one gamble. He decides to use the other stanchion that formed in his head to try one last time to recover. The boy then focuses all his internal energy on that point to repair his middle stanchion. He knows that if he makes one mistake, the situation could get irreversibly worse, and his body might be overwhelmed. But the protagonist is determined to succeed and focuses all his willpower on the task. With a cry of pain and effort, he unleashes a huge amount of red energy to heal himself. Meanwhile, outside the warehouse, the captors await the arrival of the mysterious person. And a man in a suit then walks through the gates and approaches the group waiting for him respectfully. And the captors then bow in a sign of reverence and respect to the man who has just arrived. And the scene focuses on the men in suits, who remain bowed in silence, waiting for their leader's orders. The mysterious man then walks toward the warehouse with an imposing and powerful presence. Upon arriving, the leader asks where the prisoner they captured is, in a calm and serious voice. The scene ends with a close-up on the face of the mysterious man, who appears to be the true leader of the operation.